Prime Minister Shah assures reforms, stability in meeting with EU diplomats, in fact, reaffirms Nepal's balanced foreign policy and global cooperation. Parliament session in Nepal hits procedural turmoil. Dispute over unparliamentary remarks sparks heated debate. Severe heat wave grips Nepal's western plains. Hospitals on high alert as heat stroke causes cases surge in Lumbini province. Kathmandu hosts a global gathering of pastoralist women, demands stronger rights, climate justice and policy inclusion. US carries out new air and maritime strikes on Iran. Tensions escalate as Tehran issues warning amid fragile talks. And Gujarat Titans face Royal Challengers Bengaluru in IPL 2026 Qualifier 1. Today's winner to directly qualify for the final. Good evening, I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai and this is NTV World Prime Time News coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours Nepal time. Elsewhere it's 13:15 in London, 22:15 in Tokyo and just after midnight in Sydney. Now the news in detail. Prime Minister Balendra Shah has reaffirmed his government's commitment to delivering real and visible improvements in daily lives of citizens while ensuring political stability and respect for democratic values. Speaking at a high-level meeting with European Union ambassadors based in Kathmandu and New Delhi, along with other resident foreign envoys, Prime Minister Shah said, Nepal stands at a historic juncture following the recent election mandate that reflects strong public expectations for good governance and inclusive economic growth. The Prime Minister emphasized that while the government is new, it remains committed to continuity, policy clarity and predictable governance. Stressing Nepal's foreign policy direction, the Prime Minister said the country will continue to pursue a balanced and pragmatic approach rooted in mutual respect, sovereign equality and shared prosperity. Foreign diplomats attending the meeting welcomed Nepal's peaceful electoral process and congratulated the Prime Minister on forming a new government with a clear mandate. They also expressed readiness to deepen cooperation and increase investment in Nepal's development sectors. The meeting concluded with both sides reaffirming their commitment to strengthening long-standing diplomatic ties and expanding collaboration for mutual benefit. Nepal's opposition protests disrupted proceedings in today's House of Representatives as the session briefly moved into its agenda after a short suspension and later resumed following a delay of nearly an hour. At the beginning of the sitting, lawmakers from the opposition raised objection over the use of the phrase by an RSP MP in a previous meeting, demanding that it be removed from the official parliamentary record, calling it unparliamentary language. The concerned lawmaker defended his remarks, stating that his comments were within parliamentary norms and did not violate decorum. Tensions further escalated when a ruling party's MP objected to the removal of a colleague from the chamber, claiming it was done against the Speaker's directive. However, Speaker Dol Prasad Aryal clarified that the MP was not expelled but asked to leave temporarily after being found recording photos and videos toward the Speaker's podium using a mobile phone. The Speaker then ordered an investigation into the incident. Despite the exchanges, the House proceedings continued amid protests and procedural disputes between ruling and opposition lawmakers. A severe heat wave sweeping across Nepal's western plains has largely disrupted daily life, with rising temperatures and hot winds making conditions increasingly difficult for residents. The Meteorological Forecasting Division has issued a continued heat wave warning for several Tarai districts in Lumbini province. The hot and dry conditions are expected to persist for a few more days. In districts including Bake, Bardia and Kailali, extreme heat has increased the risk of heat stroke, prompting Bhairahawa-based Bheri Hospital to be placed on a 24-hour high alert. Hospital authorities have activated emergency response teams to manage the growing number of heat-related patients. Doctors report a steady rise in cases of heat-related illnesses in recent days, with patients showing symptoms such as headaches, nausea, vomiting, dehydration and fever. Health officials have warned that continued extreme temperatures may further increase the risk of infections and heat stroke, urging the public to take necessary precautions, stay hydrated and avoid prolonged exposure to direct sunlight. We're going for a short break here. More news coming up. Do stay with us. You're watching NTV World and this is Prime Time News. Welcome back. A construction accident at Kathmandu Tarai Madhesh fast-track tunnel project in Makwanpur has left one worker dead and another injured. The incident occurred in Mahadevtar of Bhimfedi Rural Municipality 8 when a metal support structure, locally known as a rivet, fell inside the tunnel during ongoing construction work late last night. The fallen structure struck workers inside the tunnel, critically injuring 2 individuals. A 30-year-old worker from Bardia, Ram Gopal Chaudhary, died while receiving treatment at a hospital. Another injured worker is a 22-year-old Santosh Bamjan from Thaha municipality of Makwanpur. Meanwhile, a mountain guide who went missing during an expedition on Mount Makalu in Sankhua Sabha has been found dead, according to police. 40-year-old Furwa Wangdil Sherpa was discovered on Monday in the Makalu High Camp area after an extensive search operation involving helicopters and rescue teams. Sherpa had been guiding foreign climbers when he went missing during descent from higher camps following the summit attempt. One Indian climber was rescued safely while an Iranian climber remains missing. Nepal and China have reaffirmed their joint commitment to controlling cross-border crime during a bilateral security coordination meeting in Rasua. The meeting, conducted at the District Administration Office in Dhunche, focused on strengthening border security, trade facilitation, disaster management coordination and information sharing mechanisms between the 2 countries. The Nepali delegation, led by Chief District Officer Rajesh Panthi, and the Chinese delegation, headed by Commissioner Zhang Jinsui of Geirong Immigration Inspection Station, discussed issues including cross-border movement, e-pass implementation, illegal trade control, and the safety of Nepali citizens residing in Geirong. Both sides agreed to enhance cooperation among security agencies to prevent criminal activities along the border and improve coordination for smoother trade and transportation. Chinese officials also indicated possible flexibility in allowing Nepali drivers from outside Rasua to enter Geirong after completing necessary procedures, a move expected to boost trade and transport activities in the northern border region. Officials from both the countries described the meeting as productive in further strengthening long-standing friendship, mutual trust and cooperation between Nepal and China. Now, construction of the access tunnel for the 126-megawatt Lower Sethi hydropower project under construction in Tanahu has begun. The tunnel being built at Devghat Rural Municipality 4 is considered crucial for the construction of the project's main structures. Tanahu Hydropower Limited, a subsidiary of Nepal Electricity Authority, has moved forward with the work after signing a contract with RK Hydro Engineering and Associates. The semi-reservoir type peaking run-of-the-river project aims to generate more than 520 million units of electricity annually. A 32-meter-high dam will be constructed on the Sethi River near Saranghat in Bandipur Rural Municipality, creating a reservoir approximately 12.7 kilometers long. Stored water will be diverted through a 6.75-kilometer tunnel to the semi-underground powerhouse located in Gaighat in Devghat Rural Municipality. The estimated cost of the project is $227 million. Now, a global gathering of pastoralists or livestock herders women is drawing international attention on Nepal. The women who play a significant role producing food and fiber from livestock have gathered in Kathmandu to come up with a louder voice calling for their recognition and rights. Livestock farming is one of the ancient professions in the world, and the experience and unique practices from around the world brought together at a single forum in itself is worth hearing. Sabika Shrestha interacts with these women.
A global gathering of a different nature has started in Nepal's capital Kathmandu, bringing together pastoralist women and girls from around the world. The unique gathering comes as an opportunity of sharing experience, culture, and practices of the women who play key roles in caring for global rangelands and producing food and fiber from livestock. Despite their immense contribution, they often lack secure land rights, suffer disappropriate impacts from climate change, and are excluded from key policy decisions. International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, ICMOD, the local organizer, expects that the gathering will provide the much-needed support to their initiatives, strengthen solidarity and networks across regions. These women, representing the entire world, from New Zealand down under to Mexico in South America, bring their own diversity on the table during the 4-day gathering.
Being in this platform for the global gathering for pastoralist women, it's very empowering to get to see women who are pastoralists like us coming together, sharing ideas and innovating ourselves to be more better and even for our future generations. So being in this space is very empowering and an amazing space for networking in everything that we do as pastoralist women.
The forum is also expected to provide the women with the opportunity to identify shared priorities and amplify pastoralist women's voices in international decisions about rangelands and pastoralism. The gathering marks one of the largest global assemblies focused specifically on pastoralist women, with participants representing diverse ecosystems from Himalayan highlands and African savannas to Arctic tundra and Latin American rangelands. Delegates are engaging in dialogues on climate resilience, land rights, indigenous knowledge systems, and women's leadership in pastoral economies. To encourage the gathered women, Minister for Agriculture, Forest and Environment Geeta Chaudhary was in attendance in the inaugural session.
यत्रो 37वटा देशबाट उपस्थित हुनुभएको छ तपाईहरुको सबैजनाको डिफ्रेन्ट स्टोरी छ त्यो स्टोरीलाई चाहिँ हामीले पनि काम गर्दाखेरि नेपाल सरकारको विभिन्न थीमेटिक इश्यूजहरुमा काम गर्दाखेरि तपाईहरुको यो स्टोरीहरुलाई तपाईहरुले गरेको संघर्षका कथाहरुलाई कहीं न कहीं प्रोग्रामेटिक इम्प्लिमेन्टेसन पनि गर्न सकिने अवस्थामा चाहिँ हाम्रो लागि चाहिँ एकदम धेरै प्रेरणाजनक पनि हुनेछ। यो सम्मेलनको चाहिँ ऐतिहासिकता एउटा इतिहास हो जसले चाहिँ विभिन्न ठाउँबाट विश्वभरिबाट जम्मा हुनुभएका महिला किसान पशुपालक नेत्रीहरूलाई एकीकृत गरेको छ, जसले चाहिँ आफ्नो कथन, आफ्नो कथा, आफ्नो दृष्टिकोण परिवर्तन गर्ने क्षमता पनि राख्नुहुन्छ।
Through storytelling and dialogue, participants are exchanging insights on navigating challenges such as climate variability, resource scarcity, mobility restrictions, and social marginalization. Organizers stress that these shared stories are not just personal accounts, but valuable sources of knowledge. The struggles of one pastoralist woman can offer lessons and inspiration to another, fostering a sense of solidarity and collective learning across borders.
In 2022, UN has declared International Year of Rangeland and Pastoralists for 2026. So this event is going to happen in Mongolia in August. Different pastoralist women now they are gathered here to refine that declaration, because many of this declaration it didn't work. So they want to discuss what worked well and what needs to be revised. So here they are going to revise and make a declaration, work on the declaration and finalize that declaration. So that declaration will be presented in different international forums like UNCCD COP in Mongolia and other UNCBD and climate COP related events. So this declaration is going to be presented, and this pastoralist women whose voices are, who never get similar kind of platforms, will give their voice to this international platforms.
The strong international participation reflects a growing recognition of pastoralism as a viable and sustainable livelihood system in the face of global environmental change. The gathering is expected to culminate in a collective call to action, placing pastoralist women at the center of global conversations on sustainability, climate adaptation, and food systems transformation, while ensuring their voices, stories, and knowledge continue to guide future policies and practices. Sabika Shrestha with camera person Anzir Singh Bika, NTV World.
Nepal's Association of Pharmaceutical Producers, APPON, has urged the government to reduce unnecessary imports of foreign medicines and strengthen domestic pharmaceutical industries. The association has said Nepal is already self-sufficient in several types of medicines, but local manufacturers are struggling due to strong competition from cheaper imported drugs, particularly from India. The association states that nearly 1,000 pharmaceutical companies operate in Nepal, but around 10 have already closed and about 50 more are at risk, with many factories running at only 30 to 40% capacity. Industry leaders claim high production costs, low import duties on finished medicines, and heavy taxes on packaging materials are weakening local producers. They are calling for a policy shift that allows import of raw materials instead of finished medicines that are already produced in Nepal. The association has said Nepal has invested billions in this sector and warns that without government intervention, more factories could shut down. International news coming up next. For now, a short breather. At least 4 people, including 2 children, have been killed in a collision between a train and a school bus in northern Belgium, according to officials. The crash occurred in the municipality of Buggenhout during the morning rush hour when a train struck a school minibus at a level crossing. Authorities described the impact as severe. Emergency services responded immediately, with police and rescue teams securing the area and treating the injured. Officials confirmed that several children were among those on board the vehicle at the time of the collision. Belgian leaders, including Deputy Prime Minister and Interior Minister, expressed condolences to the victims' families, while the European Commission President also conveyed sympathy, calling the incident deeply tragic. An investigation has been launched to determine the circumstances of the crash. The United States has carried out new air and maritime strikes in southern Iran, targeting missile sites and vessels allegedly preparing to deploy naval mines, according to U.S. Central Command. Washington said the operation was conducted in self-defense to protect American forces and ensure freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz, a critical global shipping route. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps IRGC claimed it had downed a U.S. drone and engaged additional aircraft that entered Iranian airspace, while warning of retaliation in response to any ceasefire violations. The latest escalation comes amid ongoing indirect negotiations between Washington and Tehran aimed at stabilizing tensions and advancing discussions on a possible framework agreement. U.S. officials say diplomatic talks are continuing, although key issues remain unresolved. Iran's authorities have also accused the United States of repeated military actions in violation of the ceasefire, further complicating efforts to reach a lasting political settlement. Despite the renewed hostilities, both sides have indicated diplomatic channels remain open, although the prospects of a comprehensive agreement remain uncertain. Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei has warned countries in the Middle East would no longer serve as shields for American military bases amid ongoing tensions between Iran and the U.S. despite a fragile ceasefire.
امت اسلامی و ملت‌های منطقه ظرفیت‌ها و منافع مشترک زیادی دارند که نظم جدید و هندسه آینده منطقه و جهان را شکل خواهد داد. این جانب با صدق و خلوص همه کشورها و دولت‌های اسلامی را به دوستی و تعاون به خیر و نیکی دعوت می‌کنم تا با همکاری یکدیگر در راه پیشرفت امت اسلامی و حل مسائل دنیای اسلام قدم برداریم.
The remarks come as Tehran and Washington continues indirect exchanges aimed at securing a broader agreement to end the conflict that erupted in February. Although both sides have reported progress in negotiations, Iranian officials say a final deal has not yet been reached. The Navy of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has said that 32 vessels, including oil tankers, container ships and other merchant ships, passed through the Strait of Hormuz within the past 24 hours with permission from the IRGC. Iran tightened its grip on the strait beginning February 28 when it barred safe passage of vessels belonging to or affiliated with Israel and the U.S. following their joint strikes on Iranian territory. The United States has also imposed a naval blockade on the strait, preventing ships traveling to and from Iranian ports transiting the waterway. More international news and sports update coming up next. For now, a short break. Foreign ministers of the Quad nations have reaffirmed their commitment to strengthening cooperation on Indo-Pacific security, resilient supply chains and critical infrastructure during talks hosted by India. Opening the meeting, India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar said the grouping must not only focus on regional security in the Indo-Pacific, but also address broader global challenges, including supply chain vulnerabilities, connectivity bottlenecks and gaps in critical infrastructure.
We will be discussing and deciding our shared activities. Obviously, that will take into account the many challenges and opportunities in the world. Our focus will clearly be on the Indo-Pacific, which is the specific remit of the Quad. At the global level, we have to address issues like supply chain resilience, connectivity choke points, manufacturing and resource concentrations, and gaps in critical infrastructure. Each one of them offers a new argument for more partnerships, stronger growth, and realizing the promise of technologies. The Indo-Pacific has, in addition, its own particular concerns. This will require enhancing strategic confidence, ensuring maritime security, promoting economic choices, and fostering a deeper collaborative ethos. And that is best done by promoting trusted and transparent partnerships.
Bolivian President Rodrigo Paz has announced a 50% salary cut for himself and his cabinet members as his government faces mounting pressure from widespread anti-government protests across the country. The 58-year-old center-right leader is confronting the most serious crisis of his presidency since taking office last November, with demonstrators demanding his resignation amid growing economic and social unrest. Unions representing farmers, miners, teachers and factory workers have led weeks of nationwide protests since early May, following calls for mobilization by the country's largest trade union federation, the Bolivian Workers' Union, or COB.
Quiero avisarles que este presidente, junto a sus ministros, ha asumido la decisión como parte del esfuerzo y el compromiso con el país de rebajarse el salario 50% para que se aporte a un esfuerzo claro de que Bolivia tiene un presidente y ministros que van a sumarse a ese esfuerzo. El diálogo está abierto. El diálogo será siempre nuestro instrumento para resolver los problemas. Les reitero una vez más que las manos están abiertas y tendidas y que no solo haremos este diálogo, sino que tendremos, y reitero, ese Consejo Económico y Social de la Patria.
More than 1.5 million Muslim pilgrims gathered at Mount Arafat on Tuesday for the spiritual climax at the annual Hajj pilgrimage, as temperatures in the region climbed close to 40 degrees Celsius. Dressed in white robes, worshippers prayed and recited verses from the Quran at the site near Mecca, where the Prophet Muhammad is believed to have delivered his final sermon more than 1400 years ago. Saudi authorities deployed volunteers to distribute water, food and umbrellas to pilgrims amid intense heat, while officials urged participants to stay hydrated and avoid prolonged exposure to the sun during outdoor rituals. Despite ongoing regional tensions linked to the conflict involving Iran, Saudi officials said international participation in this year's pilgrimage remained strong, although the number of Iranian pilgrims declined significantly compared with initial expectations. Following prayers at Mount Arafat, pilgrims are expected to travel to Muzdalifah before continuing the traditional stoning of the devil ritual in Mina, one of the final stages of the Hajj pilgrimage. And with that, we move on to sports update. Gujarat Titans and Royal Challengers Bengaluru are set to clash in the first qualifier of IPL 2026 this evening, with a place in the final on the line. The match will begin at 7:45 p.m. Nepal time at the Himachal Pradesh Cricket Association Stadium in Dharamshala, India. The winner will directly qualify for the IPL 2026 final, while the losing team will get another chance by facing the winner of the eliminator in the second qualifier. Royal Challengers Bengaluru finished at the top of the table with 18 points from 14 matches, while Gujarat Titans also secured 18 points but placed second due to net run rate. In their recent head-to-head record, Bengaluru have won 3 of the last 5 encounters, while Gujarat have won 2. However, this is the first time the two teams will meet in an IPL playoff match, adding extra significance to the high-stakes clash. Now, FIFA has confirmed Iran relocated its planned World Cup training base from the US to Mexico amid the war in the Middle East and security concerns. Iran had originally selected a sports complex in Tucson, Aries, to serve as their national team's de facto headquarters during the World Cup. But the country sought a change after the US and Israel conducted joint strikes on Iran beginning in late February. FIFA published the final list of team base camp locations, with Iran now setting up shop at Centro Soloizcuentle in Tijuana. There are not yet any plans to change the location of Iran's group stage matches. As part of Group G, Iran is set to play its first 2 matches in Los Angeles against New Zealand on June 15 and Belgium on June 21st, with a June 26 matchup against Egypt in Seattle. Before we wrap up, here's a look at the top stories once again. Prime Minister Shah assures reforms stability in meeting with EU diplomats, reaffirms Nepal's balanced foreign policy and global cooperation. Parliament session in Nepal hits procedural turmoil. Dispute over unparliamentary remarks sparks heated debate. Severe heat wave grips Nepal's western plains. Hospitals on high alert as heat stroke cases surge in Lumini province. Kathmandu hosts global gathering of pastoralist women. Demands stronger rights, climate justice and policy inclusion. US carries out new air and maritime strikes on Iran. Tensions escalate as Tehran issues warning amid fragile talks. And Gujarat Titans face Royal Challengers Bengaluru in IPL 2026 first qualifier. Today's winner to directly qualify for the final. That's it from this edition of Primetime News. Our next bulletin will be at 20 to 100 hours Nepal time. Do join us through our social media and also visit our official website, nepaltelevision.com. I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai. Thanks for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu. Public Service Broadcasting PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World, facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage. Discovering the timeless Nepal.
Telling stories that endure across centuries. Where culture breathes, stories bloom.
When the world moves, we make a sense of it. NTV World.
Taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands. Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour.
This is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices, where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
This is The World This Week, your weekly roundup of the latest international events and updates. This is me, Bhavna Casey, and in this edition, we bring you the stories making headlines across the globe, from high-stakes meet to major political developments, geopolitical tensions, cultural celebrations, and remarkable feats. We have all that you need. Let's begin with China, as Beijing hosted two of the world's most influential leaders in a packed week of high-level engagements. China wrapped up a remarkable week of diplomacy as it hosted the leaders of the United States and Russia in back-to-back visits that underscored Beijing's growing role at the center of global geopolitical engagement. Beijing emerged this week as the center of the high-stakes global diplomacy, hosting back-to-back visits by United States President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin in a rare display of China's growing geopolitical weight amid intensifying global rivalry. Both leaders received elaborate state welcomes from Chinese President Xi Jinping, complete with military honors, ceremonial receptions, and tightly choreographed symbolism. It is said the two visits reflected sharply different strategic objectives and highlighted Beijing's efforts to balance competition with Washington while deepening coordination with Moscow. Trump's visit focused primarily on stabilizing increasingly volatile U.S.-China relations strained by trade disputes, export controls, and tariffs. Chinese officials described the talks as an attempt to build constructive strategic stability, signaling Beijing's push to prevent direct confrontation while preserving room for strategic competition. Putin's trip to Beijing centered on reinforcing China-Russia strategic ties at a time when Moscow remains heavily reliant on Beijing for diplomatic support, trade access, and energy cooperation amid continued Western pressure over the war in Ukraine. Putin's trip concluded with a formal joint statement and the signing of dozens of cooperation agreements covering energy, technology, trade, and media. Russian officials also confirmed renewed momentum behind the long-delayed Power-Up Siberia 2 gas pipeline project aimed at expanding Russian gas exports to China. The visit highlighted China's growing role as Russia's key economic and diplomatic partner amid Western sanctions, while both sides emphasized long-term strategic alignment in a shifting global order. From shifting power equations in Beijing, we now turn to ongoing tensions in the Middle East, where the United States and Iran remain locked in a complex standoff over nuclear concerns and the control of the Strait of Hormuz. The US and Iran stuck to opposing stances over Tehran's uranium stockpile and controls on the Strait of Hormuz, although US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said there had been some good signs in talks. US President Donald Trump said the US will eventually recover Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium, which Washington believes is destined for a nuclear weapon, though Tehran says it is intended purely for peaceful purposes. Rubio told reporters that a diplomatic solution would be unfeasible if Tehran implemented a tolling system in the Strait of Hormuz, but he added there had been some progress in talks.
But obviously, we're dealing with a system that itself is a little fractured, so the Iranian system, but that said, there'll be a couple visits. I understand, I believe the Pakistanis will be traveling to Tehran today, so hopefully that'll advance this further. The president's preference is to do a good deal. That's his preference. It's always been his preference.
It is reported, though, no deal has been reached, but that gaps have been narrowed, adding that Iran's uranium enrichment and Tehran's control over the Strait of Hormuz remain among the sticking points. Trump also railed against Tehran's intentions to charge fees for use of the strait, where a fifth of the world's oil and natural gas transited before the war. Trump has said he's ready to resume strikes on Iran, which the US and ally Israel first launched in late February, if he does not get the right answers from Iran's leadership. Iran's Revolutionary Guards have warned that renewed attacks would trigger retaliation beyond its reason. We move across the Atlantic, where relations between Washington and Havana have taken a sharp turn as the United States announced criminal charges against former Cuban leader Raul Castro. The U.S. has charged former Cuban leader Raul Castro with conspiracy to kill U.S. nationals and other crimes over the 1996 downing of 2 planes between Cuba and Florida. The case accuses Castro and 5 others in the shooting down of the aircraft belonging to a Cuban-American group Brothers to the Rescue and killing 4 people, including 3 Americans. Castro, now 94 years old, was then the head of the country's armed forces and faced international condemnation over the crash. As the U.S. looks to exert increasing pressure on Cuba's communist rule, it called the charges a political maneuver devoid of any legal foundation. U.S. President Donald Trump has repeatedly sought to exert pressure on Cuba and has openly discussed toppling its communist regime. President Trump also raised the prospect of potential U.S. military action against Cuba, saying he would be happy to act where previous administrations had not.
Cuba, look, it's a failed country. Everybody knows it. They don't have electricity. They don't have money. They don't have really anything. They don't have food. And we're going to help them along, and we're going to help them because number one, I want to help them. I don't want to on a humanitarian basis, but we have the Cuban American population, much of it living in Miami and Florida. That's a great group of people, amazing group of people, industrious, they're great Americans. They've wanted this to happen. They want to go back to their country. They want to help their country. I hope they're going to stay here, but they want to go back. They want to invest in their country and, see if they can bring it back. Other presidents have looked at this for 50, 60 years doing something, and it looks like I'll be the one that does it, so we'd be happy to do it. We want to open it up to Cuban Americans where they can go back and help.
Meanwhile, Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said Cuba possesses a national security threat to the United States and the likelihood of a peaceful agreement is not high. The U.S. has imposed fresh sanctions on Cuba and imposed an effective blockade on oil shipments, leading to a fuel crisis there and leading to extended blackouts and food shortages. We now say focus to global health concerns as World Health Organization declared an Ebola outbreak in Africa a public health emergency of international concern. The announcement comes amid rising pressure from conflicts, climate change and defunding cuts to the agency. The head of the World Health Organization WHO, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, has warned of escalating global health threats, including an Ebola outbreak in Africa, as he opened the 79th World Health Assembly in Geneva, while also highlighting mounting pressures from conflicts, climate change, and defunding cuts to the agency. He also stressed on the danger of the current Ebola outbreak in Africa, which the WHO declared a public health emergency of international concern on Sunday.
And as you know, yesterday, I declared a public health emergency of the international concern over the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo that has already spread to Uganda. I will say more about both outbreaks and the virus and Ebola in my address to member states this afternoon, which is the technical report which I will in the afternoon. These two are just the latest crises in our troubled world. From conflicts to economic crisis to climate change and aid cuts, we live in difficult and dangerous and divisive times.
The WHO previously said the outbreak did not meet the criteria of a pandemic emergency, but warned it could be much larger than what has been detected so far. The Health Assembly that brought together delegations from WHO member states sets global health policy and advances the organization's strategic priorities. We now return home to Nepal, where veteran climbers Kamirita Sherpa and Lakpa Sherpa have broken their own records as the 2026 spring climbing season gets underway, marked by historic achievements and a strong influx of international mountaineers attempting peaks including the Mount Everest. The 2026 spring climbing season officially began after a 14-member rope-fixing team reached the summit of Mount Everest, successfully opening the route for hundreds of waiting mountaineers. Nepal's officials confirmed that the summit route from the south side was fixed on May 13 after weeks of delays caused by unstable ice formations in Khumbu Icefall, allowing hundreds of climbers to begin summit pushes towards the world's highest peak. The season has also highlighted the continuing dominance of Sherpa climbers. Kamirita Sherpa, known as the Everest Man, broke his own record set last year with a 30-second climb, and the other, known as the Mountain Queen, broke her own women's record with an 11th summit. The record climbs came during a busy summit window in which hundreds of climbers reached the peak under favorable weather conditions. The season has also renewed attention on Everest traffic management as large numbers of guided expeditions and support teams From the peaks of Everest, we now move to developments in South Asia, where India is pushing ahead with large-scale infrastructure expansion in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands amid environmental concerns and local opposition over land acquisition and rehabilitation terms. India's Andaman and Nicobar Islands, located in the southern reaches of the Bay of Bengal near Indonesia and Thailand, are emerging as a strategically significant maritime hub as the government advances a large-scale infrastructure expansion plan aimed at boosting regional connectivity and economic influence in the Indo-Pacific. The Union territory, comprising more than 830 islands, of which only around 38 are permanently inhabited, is divided into the Andaman and Nicobar groups and occupies a critical position between the Andaman Sea and the Eastern Indian Ocean along key international shipping routes. As part of this push, construction activity is underway on a remote island in the archipelago, where bulldozers are clearing pristine forests to make way for a proposed $9 billion megaport, airport and urban settlement. The project is intended to strengthen India's maritime infrastructure and is widely viewed as a strategic counterweight to China's expanding investments across the Indian Ocean region. However, the development has sparked local opposition over environmental concerns and compensation issues. Residents have criticized the relocation terms with affected individuals, saying their lives feel completely destroyed and that the land compensation is inadequate compared to what is being taken. We now turn to a very different scene in the Middle East, where thousands of couples gathered in Tehran for a large-scale mass wedding ceremony.
A mass wedding event was held in Tehran amid rising regional tensions, combining traditional marriage ceremonies with strong patriotic displays. The program, called Sacrifice for Iran, brought together around 1,000 couples linked to the state-backed Jan Fada initiative. Iranian authorities organized simultaneous ceremonies across multiple locations in Tehran on Monday evening, including a gathering for 110 couples at Imam Hossein Square. State-affiliated media promoted the event as the celebration of the Celestials, featuring national flags, portraits, and symbolic displays. Officials presented the campaign as evidence of strong public support for the government. However, the initiative also faced criticism online, with skeptics questioning participation figures and alleging that the program's statistics were inflated.
We shift to a more unusual story from South Asia, where an unexpected internet sensation has emerged in Bangladesh as a rare albino buffalo has gone viral online, drawing crowds and widespread attention for its uncanny resemblance and unusual appearance. The 700-kilogram buffalo owned by Bangladesh's farmer Ziauddin Mrida has gained public interest due to its unusual appearance, particularly its long flowing coat of hair, which is rare among domestic buffalo breeds in the region. The animal was nicknamed Donald Trump by a family member, a reference to its distinctive hairstyle that resembles the US president's signature look. The buffalo quickly became a short-term local sensation, with visitors arriving in increasingly large numbers to take photographs and share content across social media platforms. Local residents describe the scene as unusual, with a steady foot traffic to the farm as curiosity about the animal spread beyond the immediate community. Despite the widespread interest, the buffalo is expected to be sacrificed as part of traditional practices in the coming days, according to its owner. Now to Japan. At the Sanza Matsuri festival, traditional irezumi tattoos, still viewed with caution, were displayed in public as tattooed participants take part in the celebrations. Crowds gathered in Tokyo over the weekend for the annual Sanza Matsuri festival, one of Japan's largest and most prominent Shinto celebrations, where participants and visitors filled the streets in a display of traditional culture, processions, and portable shrine parades. The festival is also notable for being one of few occasions in Japan where irezumi traditional tattoos are openly visible, despite their continued social sensitivity in parts of the country due to long-standing associations with organized crime. While attitudes towards tattoos have gradually softened among younger generations and international visitors, they remain restricted in some public spaces such as baths and gyms. The Sanjay Matsuri, however, provides a rare setting where tattooed participants can openly take part in celebrations, reflecting the complex balance between cultural heritage and modern social perceptions in Japan. From cultural celebrations in Japan, we now move to the natural world in Southeast Asia, where Vietnam's forests are in full seasonal bloom, with thousands of butterflies on a display.
Cuc Phuong National Park in Vietnam entered its peak butterfly season in April and May, when hundreds of species filled the forests and created a vibrant natural display. The seasonal phenomenon attracted around 3,000 to 5,000 visitors daily as butterflies gathered along humid and swampy forest trails during their breeding cycle. Forest rangers explained that the insects were drawn to mineral-rich swamp areas that supported their feeding habits. They say the diversity of plant life directly supports the large variety of butterfly species. Officials also noted that the mass appearance of butterflies reflected strong biodiversity and healthy ecological balance within one of Vietnam's oldest protected forests.
From nature's spectacle in Vietnam, we shift to human strength and endurance in Myanmar, where regional athletes competed at a major bodybuilding championship in Yangon. 39 bodybuilders competed in the 20th Southeast Asian Bodybuilding and Physics Sports Championship held in Myanmar as regional athletes gather for one of the sport's premier competitions in the region. The 5-day championship held at the Myanmar Convention Center brought together elite competitors from 8 countries across Southeast Asia. Athletes contested in multiple categories, including various height, weight, and symmetry divisions that highlight both strength and overall physics standards. Organizers say the event aims to promote regional sporting excellence and strengthen competitive bodybuilding in Southeast Asia, while providing a platform for athletes to showcase training discipline, conditioning, and performance on an international stage. The championship is also expected to draw growing spectator interest, reflecting the rising popularity of fitness and physics sports across the region. We moved to South Korea, where thousands of participants illuminated the streets of Seoul in a vibrant lantern festival celebrating the Buddhist traditions. Thousands of monks and participants marched through the streets of the South Korean capital carrying colorful lanterns during the annual Lotus Lantern Festival honoring Lord Buddha's birthday. The illuminated procession featured traditional performances, temple groups, and cultural displays, drawing large crowds of residents and tourists who gathered along major city routes to witness the event. The festival is considered one of the most important Buddhist cultural celebrations in South Korea. Participants said the atmosphere reflected a deep sense of peace and community spirit, with lanterns symbolizing hope, wisdom, and enlightenment. Organizers noted that temples across the country took part in celebrations continuing centuries-old traditions linked to Korean Buddhism. The streets of Seoul were transformed into a vibrant sea of light as the Lotus Lantern Festival continued late into the evening, with thousands joining the procession in a shared display of devotion and cultural pride. Officials said the festival also plays an important role in promoting cultural tourism, attracting international visitors, and strengthening awareness of Korea's Buddhist heritage. Many attendees described the event as both spiritual and festive, saying it offered a rare moment of unity in the heart of the capital. From cultural celebrations in Asia, we head to Europe, where music and performance took center stage at the grand finale of the Eurovision Song Contest, owned by Bulgaria's singer, who secured first place after a closely contested vote involving 25 countries.
Bulgarian singer Dara has won the 70th edition of the Eurovision Song Contest, defeating competitors from 24 other countries to claim the title in one of the world's biggest live televised music events. Dara was not initially considered among the frontrunners ahead the grand final, but her momentum grew rapidly during Eurovision as audiences and critics responded positively to her energetic stage presence and elaborate choreography. Her upbeat dance anthem, Bang Ranga Ranga became a crowd favorite with its catchy rhythm and visually striking performance helping secure strong support from both juries and viewers across Europe. The Bulgarian singer's victory marks a major achievement for Bulgaria on the Eurovision stage and sparked celebrations among fans following the announcement of the final results. The contest this year featured a mix of ballads, pop anthems, and experimental performances, attracting millions of viewers worldwide. Israel finished in second place after a closely contested vote, while several other favorites fell short despite strong expectations heading into the final. Organizers describe the anniversary edition of Eurovision as one of the most competitive and widely watched contests in recent years, highlighting the event's continuing global popularity and cultural influence.
With this, we come to the end of this episode of The World This Week. I'll see you again next week with a new episode, and we hope you enjoyed as much as we did bringing it to you. Also, do follow us on our website www.nepaltelevision.com, our social media handles, as well as our YouTube channel. Till then, take care and bye-bye.
When it's a sunny day and the rain is pouring down, when it's a sunny day and the rain is pouring down, the fox's fiancé puts on her wedding gown. The fox's fiancé puts on her wedding gown. When it's a sunny day and the rain is pouring down, when it's a sunny day and the rain is pouring down, it's time for the fox to tie all his locks. It's time for the fox to tie all his locks. And get hitched with Miss Fox. And get hitched with Miss Fox. Together with his sweetheart, he sits in a golden cart. Together with his sweetheart, he sits in a golden cart. And a big lizard dressed like a wizard becomes a priest. And he says, the two of you shall not part. The two of you shall not part. The elephant trumpets and the deer drums. The raccoons shake their rattles. And his guitar, the tiger strums. And his guitar, the tiger strums. All of the frogs come in a parade, and the bears are in a masquerade. And the bears are in a masquerade, spreading their tails, the peacocks dance, and all the horses are in a happy prance. And all the horses are in a happy prance. A bunch of starlings make a sign of love in the air. A bunch of starlings make a sign of love in the air. But all the monkeys don't give a monkey's about this whole affair. But all the monkeys don't give a monkey's about this whole affair. When it's a sunny day and the rain is pouring down, when it's a sunny day and the rain is pouring down, the fox's fiancé puts on her wedding gown. The fox's fiancé puts on her wedding gown. When it's a sunny day and the rain is pouring down, when it's a sunny day and the rain is pouring down, it's time for the fox to tie all his locks. It's time for the fox to tie all his locks and get hit
Welcome to Creative Forum with me, Shivani Thapa Bosnet. In our last episode, we spoke of the soul of the image. Today, we look at the machinery behind it. How do stories across borders? How does a social media algorithm change the way a family in Kathmandu or Paris sees themselves? Joining me today are two masters of the global narrative. Mr. Wang Botao, a veteran journalist and the deputy director of CGTN French, who has captured stories in over 30 countries. And Dr. Jennifer Kuhl, a visual anthropologist from the University of Southern California, who decodes the complex intersection of culture and technology. You are here in Kathmandu for NIF 2026, the Nepal International Film Festival, right? A city and then this prestigious film festival, both full of stories. Could you share what has captivated you most since your arrival here?
First, because the weather here, the climate is very delightful. Because coming from Beijing, in this season is normally very cold. But now here, I feel very warm, like 20 degrees. It's not hot either. And the air is fresh, the sky is blue, so the breeze, the spring breeze feels very comfortable. And secondly is the people here in Kathmandu are incredibly hospitable. This is really, I don't know if it's because I'm Chinese, you're receiving a special treatment, or if so, I feel very honored. If you treat everyone like this, I have to say that you are truly a nation of hospitality, and I have to congratulate you on that. Mm-hmm. I can give you several examples. When we came out from the airport yesterday in the minibus, which took us to the opening ceremony venue, we saw some school girls sitting in a roadside shop. They waved and smiled at us. That really gave us much warmness in our hearts. And as soon as we arrived to the opening ceremony venue, and people came to offer us colorful kata scarves. And then during the opening ceremony, our names are repeatedly cited by the host and as a distinguished guest, and we feel really very, very flattered. And now it's just the second day, and I'm already invited here. It's just amazing.
Right, hospitality is encoded in our culture, right? So for us, guests are synonymous to gods. Dr. Kuhl, what does your experience say so far of Kathmandu and NIF?
Yeah, I've been to Nepal before last, but it's almost 37 years since I last was here, and it just was so heartwarming to see. It's very modern, but it is echoing the traditional architecture of Nepal with the wooden slats and just sort of the proportions, and to see that everywhere, including at our hotel. It's nice to see Kathmandu is modernized, but it hasn't lost the look of the Kathmandu that I remember from the 80s.
Do you have any recollections from back then? Because as far as I know, you're very small, and I could see those very beautiful pictures with your parents.
That was when I was first here, but they came back, they were stationed here again in 1980. So 86, I came here when I was in college. I remember going to Indrachok to get beads. And I remember a famous painter, Tanka painter, Bibi Thapa, and seeing his studio. So yes, I have many memories from the 80s, and it is much different, bigger buildings, the idea to have Wi-Fi everywhere, but it's very rare to have all this level of modernity alongside still very distinctive Nepali flavor. Atmosphere, the looks, the art, all of this. I went near our hotel is the Garden of Dreams, and it's just very beautiful. So all of those are positives, and then I kind of laugh because I'm still, having grown up abroad, I don't often feel American, but in Nepali traffic, I feel very American because it's scary to me. And it's not just driving on the different side of the road. I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, crossing the street.
The only way to escape is to live here for some time unless you get used to it.
Yeah.
Over 22 years, Mr. Batao, you've traveled across continents, right?
Yes.
From Europe to Africa, America, and Asia, of course. So in your experience, what makes a story truly resonate across cultures?
I think it's humanity. This is the most important thing for me in any kind of creation. Actually, when we talk about cinema today, we can see that more and more modern technology are used, and people start to use AI too. But for me, the most important part in cinema is really the side of the humanity, is the story, is the story which really touched the heart of people. Anyway, for me, if I go to a cinema to see a movie, I don't go there to see all these special effects or things like this. I go there for a story which will touch me. So I think whatever the form of the art that you create, the most important part is to show the humanity.
From an anthropological lens, how do a cultural context, especially the social norms and technology, help shape the way stories are received, and how do you think they should be told?
I guess it's the question that you had asked my colleague Batao here about. I think there are certain human universals, and certainly we were one of the categories I'm on the jury for is national shorts and national documentaries. So things like family, as you said, things you can identify with, but the sort of the idea of people, suffering and longing for something. If you can relate, we can all relate on that sense. I don't think technology changes the what; it changes the how. Yes. But the essence, the story, the soul, and something that people can connect to, that's got to be the heart of it. And sometimes it's harder with cross-cultural, but I don't really think so, because I think oftentimes when something is abstracted and it's not familiar, then you can see the humanity instead of knowing, oh, it's those people, right? You to have a little distance can actually humanize.
Can you share a story from your travels, both of you, or from your research maybe, that stayed with you because it bridged cultural divides?
April 1st, I went to Bodha. Because I had my parents to commemorate. Both had passed away, and they both loved Nepal. So I went there. There was the Tamil Jatra festival to honor passed away relatives, and everybody there was so kind. I was putting the offering in the wrong place, and somebody who, she saw me and she just took my hand and put like that. And there was no, I didn't know what she was speaking Nepali or another language. She didn't try. We didn't use words. She just gently corrected me, and the eye contact. So that was really quite nice, because it was quite crowded, and you have to go up and down stairs. And I didn't have fear of falling or just performing the puja wrong, because people just help you be right. So that's sort of this cross-cultural feeling. Which, yes, I think it's definitely in the Nepali spirit, and also because there's so many tourists, you have a lot of people who are lost and don't know how to do it the right way. So the patience was much appreciated.
It was a travel that from the Casablanca in Morocco to the capital of Rabat, and I don't remember why. There was a train actually which took me to the capital city of Rabat, but I didn't know why. But I still remember that I rented a car because maybe it's because it was too late at night and there was no more train, so I had to go to the other city, which was the capital city, to cover a very important event. So I had a private car with a guy, a local guy, who spoke only Arabic.
Okay.
And I spoke at that time Chinese, English, and French, but not Arabic. So I still remember, and he drove the car nearly 2 hours from Casablanca to Rabat. And all the way along, I was quite scared because he drove the car always in the absolutely darkness. I was really very worried. Sometimes I told myself, will he take me to a place and then kill me and kidnap me? Because we couldn't communicate between us. He couldn't understand me, I couldn't understand him. But I just showed him where I shall head to. And still, you know, without the possibility to communicate in our language, still we try to make us understood by gestures, or sometimes we play a piece of music, then he tried to, you know, get out some words in French and things like this. And we had a wonderful night together, finally, because actually to lower his cost, he didn't pick the highway. He chose a very small, a narrow way, which is even darker. So I was really, really scared. But finally, everything, you know, ended very well. He took me to the much brighter city of Rabat, and I paid him. And this memory, I think, will still today, every time when I think of my career, I can think of this guy.
So the next time you decide to go back, you'll want to learn Arabic.
Yes, probably, yes.
Dr. Jennifer, in scenarios like this world is huge, beautiful, so much diversity. How do you see the role of cinema bringing the world together?
Certainly sharing stories, learning, you know, that things can look very different on the surface, but that the actual emotions that we all share as one species. Obviously, emotions are shaped by culture, but beneath that, I mean, as I try to teach in my introductory class, that there are very small set of basic needs, and culture is many varieties of ways, endless varieties of ways to solve those needs. So we have families because humans are born helpless. They can't just raise themselves, but there are many different arrangements of families, and that's that sort of thing. So I think cinema certainly was the, you know, sort of the defining art form of the 20th century. It's become something different in the 21st century. I remember, since media and technology is sort of my field, when new media, and I worked in new media for so long, I used to joke, how can they keep calling it new media? Because I've been working in it for over, you know, this many years. Oh, well, you know, cinema, that's linear cinema. It's so passé. We're going to be non-linear. And I just sat quietly, because it's like saying, well, now we have computers. Who needs poetry? You need poetry as much or even more. So we see that people don't want to be interactive. You want to go and sit down and have a story told to you. Cinema is already interactive because you are the reacting person, and no two people see the same film. That's why I'm really looking forward. We have our jury meeting later, and I'm not looking forward to arguing for what I think, but learning what films other people saw the same film, they saw different things. So for me, I mean, cinema is has a new place in the world of social media and YouTube and this kind of thing. But there was a lovely a lovely film made, and actually it was connected to Nepal. It was a Tibetan monk returning. But the name of that film is the name of the film is "Films Are Dreams That Wander in the Light of Day," and that's, I think, to me, my favorite movie title ever. So we can dream together. What could be more intimate?
Right. I think the biggest magic of cinema is the power of image. I think. For example, this time I took with me my first documentary as a producer, which tells the story of 6 children in the Xizang autonomous region in China. And these, students, they go to boarding schools, and we work with the French director, Jacques Malater, and he was, in every scene he shot, and he communicated, he lived with these children and exchanged with them. And there were many language barriers, because not only between Chinese and French, because the director is a French guy. He doesn't speak neither Chinese or Tibetan. So there was a lot of language barriers. But finally, when you go to see this documentary, the final version, and you will see that many of the emotional scenes that we don't need language, because it's just direct. It just goes, it touches the very profound part of your heart. For example, with these 6 kids, every time in the end of of each episode, there is a scene of farewell. I think this is just universal. People know that someone who cries with you for some time and then have to leave you. And at that time, no need any language. People just see, the sadness.
Yeah.
It's just, I think this is the greatest magic of cinema.
Yes. On the topic of technology, though, something you said spurred the recollection. One thing that technology is unmitigatedly great at is the new ease of subtitles, right?
Yes,
and that you can have the separate SRT files. And I mean, it used to be very difficult to burn it in, a cost. So the fact that people can just take a transcript and you show the same film and drop in the separated text file is beautiful. The explosion on Netflix or Amazon Prime or any of those OTT streaming services in the US, now we can see global cinema in the US.
Exactly.
And the barriers are down, and I credit foreign cinema and other things of technology. People used to, and when I was in film school, people used to say, subtitles. You go to those foreign French films, I don't go to read, read. And now people are happy to read, and people even in their own homes with English programs put on those subtitles. So that, I think, people who, the purists who want only image may be not happy, but it makes us feel we can all...
exactly. Language in today's world is not a barrier at all, because and thanks to forums like NIV, Cannes, and all the film festivals, and of course the subtitles, we have to be thankful to them, because today in Nepal, if you talk about Nepal, young generations, they know Korean, they know Turkish, they know Iranian language by virtue of the subtitles and the films that they watch on Netflix and on all the portals, right? Staying with technology, Dr. Jennifer, you've studied ethnographic storytelling, right? And media ecology very, very extensively. How do you think has social media changed the way communities narrate their own stories?
That's a very big question. Certainly, it doesn't replace, when you talked about ecologies, I think it's really important that one thing doesn't replace the other. That we still have pencils and pens. They come in handy just because there are computers. So, I think social media is a different thing. I don't know that it's all about community, because I always think, how do you define community? It's a very broad, there's a lot of literature about that. Even thinking about the Max Weber, the famous sociologist, talked about the community of the streetcar, or just as I was talking at Boda, that's the community of people that are going to make the observance. It can be fleeting. It doesn't have to be permanent or that kind of thing. But I think social media, it can compete in a lot of ways, but then also connecting, so people can hype is one word for it, but also say, hey, share is another word for it. So it's much more tricky in terms of getting the word out. And there are some, as a scholar, you're often critical to worry about sort of the competition for attention. We still have the same number of hours in the day. We still have the same nervous system that was really built, for Neolithic times, thousands of years ago. And so I think that there are dangers. But as long as, going back to the opening ceremony yesterday, they were talking about future forward, but keeping memories. And so I think that there's that give and take with the question you asked me in terms of the effect of social media on cinema. Some positives, but also we have to, with our eyes open, see that there can also be challenges.
Does this present any sort of risks on the authenticity of the stories that are coming?
Of course. There's a huge risk. As I work for CGTN, and I can tell you that this documentary that I brought here was my first documentary. During my first 20 years of career, I worked mainly on journalism. For example, in the journalism, we are strictly forbidden to use any kind of AI technology. Anyway, in the TV channel where I work, there are very strict, code to forbid this, because or else people don't know if it's true or false. But I think for those creation parts, I think we can use this kind of new technology or social media. I think is rather beneficial. It can bring us a lot of powerful and efficient tools to, for example, to not only lower the cost but also increase the efficiency of our production. I think on this side it's a good thing. But for me, I just followed several days ago, the French annual cinema festival, which is César, the French César. I see that in France, people also, these people who really have a strong love for the traditional cinema, when they are on the stage, they all call for people to get back to the cinema, to see the big screens. I think this is, sometimes I feel a little bit sad too, because I think maybe with the social media, people spend our days, lying in bed and just scrolling the short videos. Sometimes it's a little bit sad, especially for those who make cinema of great quality, and they spend their whole life to produce high quality and very good movies, and then sometimes people don't go to the cinema. They go there, less. And sometimes people just lie on their bed and they use a platform like Netflix, and they can see any movies they want. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Maybe for the TV, or not only for cinema, for the TV, the profession that I execute is the same thing, because people don't watch TV anymore. They watch TV shows, they use their phone.
Yeah.
So
right here, I would want to ask, as a producer and as a journalist working in a transnational, television, yes, how do you even, balance this immediacy and spectacle of global media?
We don't have the choice, because most of the people now use an iPhone. We use smartphone. So our strategy is now much more oriented to all these digital, side. So when we create, when we do something, make a report, sometimes, the first platform that we broadcast is not our TV screen, it's the platform of social media. So this is what we do to, take this challenge, because we don't have the choice, because when nobody opens their TV, it's I don't know, it's a little bit sad, but it's the trend. No one can stop that trend. I don't know what shall we do. But maybe if you see these things from another side, maybe it's a good thing, because there are still people who go to cinema.
Let's talk craft here, Mr. Betao. You launched the reality TV show. I'm not sure if I would pronounce this right, the name of the Français, right? And you also produced documentaries like Learners from the Top of the World, and then there is China, Africa 2035, yes, really interesting pieces. Now, what exactly do you look for when deciding which stories to tell and which stories will travel, beyond borders? How do you even decide that?
For any kind of creation work, the most important part is the humanity side. For the documentary that I brought here, for example, as I said, we showed the lives of 6 children of Xizang of 14 years old. And I, as the chief producer of this project, I went there only once during the beginning of the project. And then I had a lot of work to do, in the headquarters. So it's the executive team who went there during nearly 2 months. It's really tough work. But finally, when I see, the movie, the most touching part of this documentary is really all these emotions that are shown here. Especially for me, it's even more special because I have myself a daughter of 14 years old. So when I see these boys and girls of 14 years old on the plateau of Xizang, actually I found out that through the camera of Jack Malata that they are actually like my daughter, exactly the same thing. So it touched me a lot.
Dr. Jennifer, from a filmmaking perspective, especially in ethnographic storytelling or work, how do you decide between observation and narrative intervention? I mean, how do you stay true to your subjects while crafting a very compelling story?
Well, I mean, in terms of the trend of ethnographic cinema, we have, for the last 20 years at least, moved towards more participatory, rather than extractive filmmaking where there's the separation of people on either side of the camera. Now it is seen as more collaborative, because that's always how it has been. It's just to acknowledge that.
In your opinion, what do you think is the single most important principle the young storytellers, whether it is journalists or whether it's filmmakers, should hold on to today?
Don't forget the past. I mean, I am not as rosy-colored about the technology, perhaps, as we are sounding, especially when I hear that you're saying the same thing that I hear out, is that we don't have a choice. And then I'm always worried about, well, then where is this power? Because if it's not the power from the people, then where is it coming from? But I do have a lot of faith if you don't forget the past, because this has been the gift of humanity, is that we don't have to discover everything for ourselves. We have, from previous generations, from 200,000 years, there's been humanity. We've been writing things and teaching things, a little bit less than that time, but particularly in a country like Nepal with such a distinct and rich and diverse cultural heritage. Yes, your grandmother, your parents might not understand social media, but they know things worth knowing. I would say that to the youth. Give us some grace, as my students say, and listen to the old people, because they won't be here forever.
Your 2 cents for young filmmakers and storytellers.
I learned a lot from the French director Jack Malata. I think he is a documentary filmmaker, but he is a sort of also like a sort of anthropologist, because his favorite topic is just about human history, is about these minorities, living conditions around the world. So I learned a lot from him. Jack Malata is a great documentary filmmaker in France. He's even rewarded the National Order, of the Knight of the National Order. So I think the key of the success is he really respects the people. I think this is very important. I can give you an anecdote. In one of the shooting, a girl in the second episode had a fight with her father because maybe she made some mistakes in her homework, and her father blamed her, and then the little girl, she got a temper. She elbowed her father, and then in the final version, after that the picture moved to another scene. It's like it's finished. But my team told me that actually what happened that day is that the fight didn't calm down after that, even got bigger. And the girl, she ran away and she hid herself in a corner of that village. And my team told us that actually their camera wasn't turned off. They recorded everything here. And our Chinese team said to ourselves that this might be a very good dramatic scene, that if we showed it out, it could be fantastic. It can increase the ratings. But finally, the director, he decided to cut it because he thinks that this kind of scene, if it is shown on the great public, maybe one day it will hurt this little girl. So I'm really very touched. I'm really very touched by his this kind of humbleness and respect for people. If you want to, make a good movie, you must learn first to respect all the people with whom you work.
Wow, that's a beautiful, beautiful sharing that you just did. Coming to this part now, here I get to ask you a few quick questions, right? I'm going to throw you like common questions, just fun. And I mean, like short answers, just first thing in your mind, you just throw it back to me, right? Shall we start? All right? Okay, a lovely one. One word for Kathmandu.
Amazing.
Diverse. No, that's a bad word. It's a bad word. Charmant in French, charming, but it's better in French. It's better in French.
Charmant,
like the sound, the timbre of that. Wow.
Charmant.
All right, charmant. I learned.
Ça là, les petits bâtiments en bois, little buildings, wooden buildings.
Oh, wow.
But that's many words. Academics, we can't.
You can listen to as many attributes as you send my way. Coffee or tea while working?
Coffee.
Coffee.
Tea. Doodh wali chai.
Doodh wali chai. Wow, lovely. Have you tried one? Have you tried one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I make it at home all the time. Yeah.
How about you? Try Nepali tea?
Not yet.
A film you could watch over and over.
A French filmmaker, Chris Marker, called Sans Soleil, Sunless, which is a sort of a documentary. But also Werner Herzog, who's a great filmmaker, very well known, I'm sure. Many people have heard of him, but he's not a Hollywood style, but Aguirre, Wrath of God. That's a very powerful film. I haven't seen it in a while. But also, I'm trying to think. I don't watch a lot of Hollywood films multiple times. I watch a lot of series multiple times.
Right.
In French, it's Adieu ma concubine. Adieu ma farewell my concubine.
My concubine. Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Actually, I did. There's a film called Hiroshima Mon Amour by a French director. It's because of you that I got the francophone on my mind. That is a really gorgeous film. Or a Japanese film. I love the work of Shohei Imamura. He made a film called Vengeance is Mine. That one, I haven't seen it in a long time because it's not an easy distribution, but I would watch that multiple times.
I'll make sure I take note of all these. Morning person or a night owl?
I'm a morning person nowadays. If you have to shift, because if you're doing field work, you're at the whim of the people that you're living with, and I will stay up if I have to, but my normal rhythm is to be in bed early and get up at 4 or 5, so morning.
Does your work allow this privilege to you every
It
time?
does, and especially now that I am in the stage of life where I don't have to worry about waking anybody else up. Yes.
Right. How about you?
I'm a night person because of my job. I don't have the choice. Yeah, because actually I work in news, and with the time lag with all these countries which speak French. Every day I had to stay till very night to monitor what is happening in the world.
So, favorite storytelling tool: a camera, pen, or voice?
Well, I mean, if you have the attention of people, a voice. But I would say editing is the best. That's where films, they say films are written multiple times. The screenwriter writes it once, the director is writing it again, but the final say is the editor. So I would say, any kind of a good editing program, and my favorite was cutting by hand, but that's gone, and that's fine. That way I don't have to worry about spilling coffee on stuff.
For me, camera.
Camera.
Because I work on TV, and I'm really sure that maybe TV will disappear one day, but a camera will never.
A city that feels like home. Both of you travel intensively, right? So a city that feels like home.
Los Angeles, California, because it has the world. It just sort of I mean, that's what makes, that's the strength of America. The real strength, all the people, the immigrants that make it so. But Los Angeles is just a very expansive city. Nobody thinks it's beautiful, and it loves every other city. We're always saying like, oh, when I lived in San Francisco for the .com years, I did my work there. When I was leaving, people were like, why are you leaving? Where are you going? Los Angeles. They made these faces, and I was like, well, I'm going to. And then when I arrived, I got in the cab at Los Angeles Airport, and I was telling the cab driver, oh, I'm moving here. Oh, where are you coming from? San Francisco. And he looks in the rear view and looks at me and says, oh, that's a beautiful little town. We have an expansive heart for all the other cities in the world, and that's why I love it.
For me, maybe Paris. Maybe Paris, because I spent maybe a very precious part of my life there from 2008 to 2011, and this is really a lapse of my life which is very precious. Like the American writer Hemingway said that you will never forget Paris because it's a moving feast. Paris is a moving feast. And every time now when I travel to Paris for professional purpose, as soon as I got down get off the airplane, it's really felt like home, because everything to me is that familiar. I spent a part important of my youth there.
Right. Yeah. Just a curiosity, Mr. Batao. I mean, no judgments here. How did French happen to you? Because I don't recall meeting a Chinese who speaks French and speaks French better than the French themselves.
Yeah,
so
maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm sort of predestined to this language and this culture. When I was in a college, middle school, high school students, and then we got to choose our major in college. I like learning foreign language, and I'm very interested in all these exotic things in foreign countries. So because you know that in China everyone learns English since a very young age, but if I continue to learn English, I think that's not cool. So I told me
that's a smart move.
Yeah, why not another language? And then this language is maybe for a boy of 18 years old. He sounds really sort of romantic or exotic. Oh. So I picked it just by accident like this, and now it becomes my whole life, love.
Right. Let me come to one of my favorite questions. Silence in cinema or music?
You gotta have a reason for both. One thing I will say is silence is never silence in the cinema. It's never nothing. You need something to emphasize that it's silent. Some different, the cliche is the door squeak or something. But you need a small sound to show the larger silence. Music can be great, but it's a great deadener. An ethnographic film especially, it's what Mark said, religion is the opium of the people, and I tell my students music is the opium of a bad cut. If you have a good cut, it can work in silence. But what could be more, some of the films in the festival, particularly the national shorts, I was so impressed by how they used song as a story element. Because songs are a lot of the films are celebrating village culture, family life, and there are appropriate songs. So there is nothing, I'm a Generation X of the Walkman, and the greatest thing about the Walkman is not that you can shut your parents from talking to you, it is more that you're in a movie, right? It's like Bollywood, and you're dancing because you have your own soundtrack. So there's no question about the power of music. So I would have to say in that battle, music wins. But if it's a matter of educating my students, you have to have a reason for the music, and it should be a motivated music, not just a cliche music.
Sometimes silence is powerful. They're very, very powerful. I remember one of my favorite scenes in cinema is a film from Jia Zhangke, Chinese director Jia Zhangke, which means the title is The Mountains May Depart or Apart, the English name. And I still remember that there is a scene in which the main character, the lady, and his father were in a railway station, and the girl she went to a shop to buy something to her father, who was sitting on a bench, right? Bench, on a long bench. And when the girl got back, he found that her dad is already passed away. Has already passed away. And at that moment, it was a total silence, and it was very powerful. Not a single word, just a picture, still, and the spectator can feel the strong shock and sadness.
Momos or samosas?
Well, we're in Nepal. I better say momos.
Momos, even if I haven't have the chance to test it.
But I make a good
protocol.
samosa.
It's a protocol that you do
of
try
course,
momos.
yeah, I will try. I will try.
As long as we can eat it with our hands, because it's too hard with chopsticks.
Oh, yes. You're free to use chopsticks, forks, hands, right? But it's a protocol.
I'll test it this evening.
Right. Thank you so much. It was lovely.
Thank you so much, Shivani.
Right.
Such a pleasure.
Indeed. Thank you so much for coming over and sharing your
insights.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Today we have glimpsed the world through many lenses, from the bustling studios and the experiences that are coming from CGTN to ethnographic narratives. Stories are more than content. They're bridges. They connect continents, cultures, and hearts. And to our audiences, the stories we tell and the stories we carry are what keep us human. And Creative Forum is where we talk about the humanness through arts and talks and conversations based on arts. This is Shivani Thapa-Bosnet signing off until next time. Goodbye.
Geography. The province has 4 domestic airports. The under construction Kathmandu-Nizhgard fast track and the international airport at Nizhgard will definitely open doors for its prosperity through tourism. All the tourism destinations are well equipped in terms of infrastructures, but some await road network connection. The need to explore new destinations and promote the existing ones has been long felt. These are some of the major tourism destinations of Province 2, which draw hundreds of thousands of tourists every year. The Janaki Temple. The Janaki Temple, in the birthplace of Sita, the better half of Lord Rama, is a pious place for Hindus. Major religious fairs take place annually in Janakpur Dham, including on Ram Navami, the birthday of Lord Rama, full moon day of Nepali month of Asuz, Kozagrat Purnima, Bivaha Panchami, and famous Jhula in Fagun. Temple is not just a heritage for Nepalese, but for all the Hindus across the world. Janaki Temple stands out as the place drawing most number of tourists in Madhya province every year. Large number of devotees throngs the deity's shrine in Dasai festival. Of the religious tourists here are either domestic or from India. The history of Chinnamasta deity's shrine, with immense religious tourism potential, is connected to the history of Simrongarh. Parsa National Park. The Parsa National Park along the border of Parsa, Bara and Makwanpur districts is the youngest national park in Parsa National Park is home to some exotic wild animals including the Barasingha, blue bulls and the Bengal tigers. Likewise, birds including very rare spiny babbler, cranes and reptiles like pythons are found here. And reach Parsa National Park in around 6 hours drive from Kathmandu. Spread across Chitwan, Makwanpur and Parsa districts, the Parsa National Park is home to some endangered wild animals and birds. The major attractions here are Bengal tiger, one-horned rhinos, wild elephants, leopards, Gor bison or the Gorigai, among others. Dhanusadham. The Dhanush temple at Dhanusadham municipality of Dhanusa district is an important tourism destination of Madhya province. Mythological belief says this is the very place where Lord Rama had broken the bow of Lord Shiva to win the hand of goddess Sita. It is believed that the Pinak bow of Lord Shiva broke into 3 pieces when Lord Rama tried to fix the string on it. According to the famous Hindu scripture Ramayana, one of the pieces went to the sky, another went to the netherworld, and one dropped on earth here at Dhanusadham. The Dhanush temple is just 15 kilometers drive from the Janakpur Dham. The name of the place has been derived as Dhanusadham from the legend of Ramayana and also the district known as Dhanusa. As per popular belief, the one who sees the piece of bow will be eternally blessed. One can reach the Salahis Garden just 3 kilometers ride from Lahan Bazar or Lahan municipality in Siraha district. Every tourism destination in Madhya province has its own speciality. Almost all these destinations are awaiting promotion, at the same time developing necessary infrastructure to promote tourism here has its own challenges. Tourism could be the road to prosperity for province too, if only the government pays little more attention in developing and promoting potential destinations. Compared to some other provinces, it has much higher tourism potential.
Pope Leo XIV has called for the disarming of artificial intelligence, warning that the rapidly advancing technology could create new forms of exploitation, inequality, and warfare if left unchecked. Presenting his first encyclical, Magnifica Humanitas, which means magnificent humanity, at the Vatican on Monday, the first American Pope urged governments and technology companies to prevent AI from becoming an instrument of domination, exclusion, and death. Leo warned against the global race to develop increasingly powerful algorithms for geopolitical and commercial advantage, saying AI must remain centered on human dignity and ethical responsibility. The Pope strongly criticized the use of AI in warfare, arguing that lethal decisions should never be entrusted to machines. He also rejected the modern interpretation of the just war doctrine, stating that no algorithm can make war morally acceptable. The Vatican event included leading AI researchers, among them Christopher Olah, co-founder of Anthropic, who acknowledged that commercial pressures can conflict with ethical decision-making in the technology sector. Leo also raised concerns over the hidden human and environmental costs behind AI systems, including exploitative labor practices tied to data moderation and mineral extraction. The encyclical builds on years of Vatican engagement with emerging technologies and is expected to shape global debate on AI ethics, much like Pope Francis's 2015 climate document Laudato Si influenced international discussions on the environment. Hundreds of thousands of Muslim pilgrims gathered at Mount Arafat on Tuesday for the spiritual climax of the annual Hajj pilgrimage, as temperatures in Saudi Arabia climbed close to 40 degrees Celsius. From early morning, worshippers dressed in white robes recited verses from the Quran on the rocky hill near Mecca, where Prophet Muhammad is believed to have delivered his final sermon. Volunteers distributed water, umbrellas and food to pilgrims making their way to the sacred site. More than 1.5 million pilgrims are taking part in this year's Hajj, despite heightened regional tensions linked to the conflict involving the United States, Israel and Iran. During recent hostilities, Iranian retaliatory strikes targeted infrastructure and energy facilities across the Gulf, including sites in Saudi Arabia. More than 30,000 Iranians participated in the pilgrimage this year, significantly lower than the 86,000 initially expected, citing the wartime situation for the decline. Saudi authorities, however, said the number of international pilgrims has increased compared to last year. The Hajj, one of the 5 pillars of Islam, is a religious obligation that every Muslim with the financial and physical means is expected to perform at least once in their lifetime. Following prayers at Mount Arafat, pilgrims will travel to Muzdalifah to spend the night and collect pebbles for the symbolic stoning of the devil ritual in Mina, which begins on Wednesday. The Hajj retraces the route of Prophet Muhammad's final pilgrimage approximately 1,400 years ago and remains central to Saudi Arabia's religious significance, with the Saudi monarch holding the title custodian of the 2 holy mosques in Mecca and Medina. North Korea is reportedly advancing the development of electronic warfare capabilities, including electromagnetic pulse, EMP weapons designed to disrupt or disable electronic systems, according to state media statements cited in recent reports. The claims have raised renewed concerns in South Korea, where officials and security experts warn that critical infrastructure may remain vulnerable to such attacks. While some key state security facilities are said to have protective systems in place, gaps are believed to persist in emergency response agencies, including police and fire services. Experts note that South Korea's heavy reliance on digital systems could increase exposure to large-scale electronic disruption, with studies suggesting that damage to the power grid from an EMP event could require significant time to restore. Authorities are now facing growing calls to strengthen resilience across energy and emergency response networks. Armed inmates have taken control of a prison facility in Venezuela following allegations of torture and mistreatment, prompting an ongoing standoff with authorities, officials, and rights groups today. The unrest erupted at the Barinas detention center, where prisoners reportedly seized parts of the facility, burned bedding materials, and gathered on rooftops while demanding the removal of prison authorities. Security forces have since surrounded the facility, while mediators are attempting to negotiate with inmates who remain inside. Authorities say some detainees have been transferred to other prisons as the situation is brought under control. The incident comes amid long-standing concerns over prison conditions in Venezuela, with human rights organizations repeatedly highlighting issues including overcrowding, poor sanitation, and alleged abuse within detention facilities. An investigation into the circumstances surrounding the uprising is ongoing. A 12-year-old boy has died in the French city of Rennes in a case that has shocked the local community and triggered a murder investigation involving 2 teenage suspects. Police say a 16-year-old boy was arrested shortly after the incident, while a teenage girl later handed herself in to authorities. Both remain in custody as investigators try to piece together what happened and determine the exact circumstances that led to the child's death. The investigation is being led by specialist crime units under the supervision of the public prosecutor, with authorities confirming that the case is being treated as the suspected murder of a minor. Drivers have also been searching the nearby river Vilaine as part of efforts to recover possible evidence. While officials say the sequence of events is still unclear, the incident has left residents in shock, with many describing a sense of disbelief that such a tragedy could occur in their neighborhood. Authorities have not yet confirmed the relationship between the individuals involved, and the investigation remains ongoing. Palestinian-Jordanian climber Mustafa Salami is attempting to carry the hopes of children affected by the war in Gaza to the summit of Mount Everest, using his climb to raise awareness and humanitarian support for displaced families. Among his expedition gear is a kite in the colors of the Palestinian flag, covered with handwritten messages and dreams from children living amid the devastation of the conflict. Many of the notes express hopes of becoming doctors, engineers, and teachers despite losing homes, schools, and loved ones. Salami, 56, said he met several of the children near the Rafah crossing after they arrived in Egypt. He described difficult living conditions with many families still displaced and lacking access to proper shelter, clean water, healthcare, and education. The veteran mountaineer also hopes to raise $10 million for the UK-based Al Khair Foundation, which provides food, sanitation, shelter, and psychological support to affected communities. One message on the kite came from a young girl named Munira, who asked Salami to write the number 47, the number of relatives she said she had lost during the conflict. Born to Palestinian parents and raised in a refugee camp, Salami said the expedition is focused on giving children a voice and drawing attention to the humanitarian impact of war. Salami previously completed the Explorer's Grand Slam, climbing the highest peaks on every continent and skiing to both the North and South Poles. He says this Everest expedition is among the most personal journeys he has undertaken. Authorities in the Australian state of Victoria are investigating the discovery of human remains at the historic Castlemaine Cemetery, where thousands of graves may have been disrupted over several decades. Archaeologists are now working to identify remains found in large soil mounds after reports that graves were exhumed and reused as parts of efforts to manage limited burial space at the cemetery. Officials estimate that as many as 5,000 bodies could have been affected over a period of nearly 70 years. This resulted in outrage among families who say they were unaware that the resting places of their relatives may have been disturbed. Community members and cemetery representatives have described the revelations as deeply distressing, with some families uncertain whether the remains of their ancestors still lie in their original graves. Investigators say the process of identifying remains and determining appropriate reburial measures is likely to take years, as authorities consult with families and cultural experts to ensure the work is carried out respectfully and transparently. The case has also renewed scrutiny over cemetery management practices and accountability, with calls for safeguards to prevent similar incidents in the future. In Santiago, 100-year-old ballet teacher Evelyn Cordero continues to inspire a generation of dancers as she leads classes with the same passion that has defined her lifelong career. Leaning on a cane and the studio bar, Cordero says she still dreams of dancing, describing ballet as both an artistic passion and a complete form of exercise for the body and mind. Despite her age, the veteran instructor says choreography constantly occupies her thoughts, proving that her love for ballet remains as strong as ever.
Incluso yo creo que yo me he levantado durmiendo y he estado bailando. Y sueño bailando, hago unos saltos preciosos, topando el techo, qué sé yo, me elevo, después los giros, hago un montón de giros. Cuando hacía giro en sueño, llegaba a la sala de ballet y me ponía a hacer los giros y me salían estupendos. Y también pienso en la salud de la gente, que también el ballet hace bien para la salud, porque se trabaja toda la musculatura, toda la cabeza, también es un trabajo muy completo, ¿no?
Near the English city Gloucester, hundreds of competitors and spectators gathered at the famous Cooper's Hill for the United Kingdom's annual cheese rolling race, a centuries-old tradition known for its danger, chaos, and excitement. The event sees participants sprinting down an extremely steep hillside in pursuit of a wheel of double Gloucester cheese, with the first person to reach the bottom declared the winner. Contestants from across Britain and around the world took part in the race, with many tumbling, sliding and colliding as they attempted to navigate the rough terrain and rapid descent. Despite frequent falls and minor injuries, competitors described the experience as thrilling and unforgettable, while spectators celebrated the event described as one of Britain's most unique cultural traditions. Organizers say the annual competition continues to draw international attention, highlighting the enduring appeal of eccentric local costumes and community celebrations in the United Kingdom. Workers at Ichikawa City Zoo near Tokyo have removed the coats of alpacas to keep them cool during the hot summer. The zoo is home to 6 alpacas between the ages of 4 and 6. The animals have been featured in viral videos that show them released from their enclosure and running around the zoo when it is closed to visitors in what is known as the alpaca dash. The zoo shears the alpacas at this time of year as they have a low tolerance for heat and do not naturally shed. Zookeepers tied the alpacas with rope to keep them from resisting and held them during the shearing process. Altogether, the herd lost more than 10 kilograms of wool. Apart from their tails and heads, the animals slimmed down significantly, bringing smiles to the staff. The fleece will be washed and turned into knitting wool, which will be used to make plush toys that will be sold at the zoo. A zookeeper said the alpacas have such a different look, he couldn't help but laugh. He added he wants them to run around the zoo while feeling cooler. In Ecuador's capital of Quito, an ancient Andean healing tradition is finding new life through some very unexpected clients, pets. At the historic San Francisco market, traditional healers are now offering limpias, or spiritual cleansing rituals, for dogs, cats, and even rabbits, as more pet owners look for gentle and holistic ways to help anxious animals relax. Using herbs, incense smoke, prayers, and symbolic rituals, healers say the ceremonies are meant to clear away negative energy and bring calm and balance, not just for people, but for their furry companions too. Many owners now see pets as part of the family, and practitioners believe animals can absorb stress from the people around them, making emotional care just as important for pets as it is for humans. The growing trend has brought fresh attention to centuries-old indigenous traditions, while also creating heartwarming scenes of pampered pets receiving blessings, cuddles, and calming rituals in the middle of Quito's bustling market. Owners who have tried the ceremony say their pets appear more relaxed and comforted afterward, turning the practice into a blend of cultural tradition, wellness, and unconditional love for animals.
Hello and welcome to The Perspective on NTV World. I am Sabika Shrestha, your host for the program. From major headlines to the issues behind them, we break down the week's top stories and explore how they are shaping the path forward. One of the major issues making headlines last week was the downsizing of Nepal government's administrative structure. As per the 100-point commitment paper, the Balendra Shah-led Rashtriya Swatantra Party government cut down the existing 22 ministries into 18. It was one of the most expected moves of the government, but the implications have not been very smooth on the ground. Weeks after government downsized ministries to 18, confusion looms large over their overlapping jurisdiction and chain of command. Unclear allocation of responsibilities, lack of communication, and arrangements leave both citizens and civil employees struggling to navigate the new system. Confusion loomed large in the offices of the ministries inside Singhadarbar that had been merged or split. Here's the story. The government's move to reduce the number of federal ministries from 22 to 18, intended to streamline governance and cut costs, has led to mounting confusion among service seekers and government employees. Due to unclear jurisdiction and organizational structure, not just the service seekers, even the employees look confused.
Although the cabinet endorsed the Nepal government allocation of business regulations, merging ministries with overlapping jurisdictions, the transition on the ground remains disorganized. Service seekers report being unsure where to go for basic services, often being redirected from one office to another after the transition. The lack of clarity extends within the bureaucracy itself. Civil employees are still operating from their previous workstations, uncertain about new reporting lines and departmental responsibilities. In several cases, merged ministries have been temporarily labeled as Block A, Block B, and even Block C without clear indication of which services are housed in which block. Adding to the confusion, outdated signboards of former ministries continue to remain in place, misguiding visitors. Even security personnel stationed at ministry premises have not been adequately briefed, leaving them unable to guide the public effectively. Further complicating matters, the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation has been placed under the Prime Minister's office, but a separate building or clear physical allocation has yet to be designated after MP Mahabir Pon demanded single ministry for the research works. This has created additional uncertainty for both employees and service recipients. While the restructuring aims for long-term administrative efficiency, the current lack of coordination, clear communication, and proper logistical planning has exposed serious gaps in implementation. The government must urgently ensure clear allocation of ministries, proper signage, and public communication to prevent further disruption in public service delivery.
As soon as the cabinet level decision come to effect, officials inside Singadarbar, the administrative headquarters of the country, officials were busy changing the boards of ministries. Changing the set bureaucratic system so long established is definitely not going to be as easy as changing the board. How will the state coordinate workflows, reintegrate officials and navigate this major bureaucratic transition is yet to be seen. Diksha Avasti looks more into it.
The government has recently decided to reduce the number of ministries from 22 to 18. The decision is official, and we can see the name boards being changed at Singadarbar to reflect the new structure. But the real transition unfolds now. After the decision, how will the government reshuffle and reintegrate the officials working in the ministries and departments? And how will the workflow and coordination go after the official decision?
With the aim of making government services more efficient and reducing expenditure, the government carried out a structural overhaul by downsizing ministries. Now it has unfolded a transitioning task of restructuring the entire administrative system. To make this transition official, the government has introduced the Work Division Regulations 2083, a framework that redistributes responsibilities of merged and dissolved ministries. In simple terms, it decides which ministry will now handle which work. But beyond paperwork, the challenge now is managing people and systems. From shifting employees and departments to integrating ministry websites, records, and internal digital systems, the government is now working on a full administrative adjustment. To managing this transition, a joint team of officials has started preparing an organization and management survey, also known as the O&M survey. The report of this survey will determine how many employees are actually needed, how departments will be divided, and how the new structure will function. Alongside this, restructuring is also expected to create new technical responsibilities, requiring employees to undergo training related to IT systems, including ministry websites and internal software management.
सबभन्दा पहिले गर्नुपर्ने चाहिँ संगठन तथा व्यवस्थापन सर्वेक्षणको काम हो। त्यो विषयमा मन्त्रालयले आन्तरिक रूपमा तयारी गरिरहेको छ। संगठन तथा व्यवस्थापन परीक्षणको प्रतिवेदन तयार हुन्छ। त्यो प्रतिवेदनले नि कुन-कुन वर्गको, कुन-कुन तहको, कुन-कुन श्रेणीको कर्मचारी रहने, हैन, कुन-कुन शाखा महाशाखाहरू रहने, हैन, भन्ने विषयहरू निर्धारण गर्छ।
Officials admit that downsizing the ministries could create surplus manpower, but employees will not be removed immediately. Instead, surplus staffs will gradually be adjusted into vacant positions in other government agencies. The government also plans to slow down new recruitments for some time and prioritize adjusting existing employees first.
कतिपय कर्मचारीहरू हैन चाहिँ त्यो बढी हुने फाजिलमा पर्ने पनि हुन सक्छ त्यसको लागि चाहिँ हामीले रिक्त भएका पदहरूमा अन्य निकायहरूमा त्यसलाई क्रमशः हामी मिलान गर्दै जाने र त्यसको लागि हुन सक्छ केही समयलाई हामीले पदपूर्ति नियमित रूपमा हुने पदपूर्तिलाई पनि होल्ड गर्नुपर्ने पनि हुन सक्छ.
Experts, however, say the success of this restructuring will depend not only on merging ministries but also on how efficiently the government manages staff, technology, and public service delivery in the coming months.
We are now joined virtually on the perspective by former Secretary Keshav Sharma to gain further insights and perspective on this matter. Welcome to the perspective, sir.
Thank you.
So as we know, government has already reduced a lot of ministries in last few days. So will reducing the number of ministries genuinely improve governance, efficiency, or create coordination challenges?
Yes, it is supposed that in the past there were different ministries for the same work. For example, Ministry of Physical Infrastructure and Transport, Ministry of Urban Development, and Ministry of Local Development, Former Local Development. This is Parliamentary Affairs. These all ministries used to construct the roads, right, under their entities like Department of Roads under Ministry of Physical Infrastructure and Transport, Ministry of Urban Development and Building Construction under Ministry of Urban Development, and Department of Local Infrastructure Development under the Federal Affairs Ministry. So for the same work, many entities were there. Similarly, in case of water supply, Urban Development Ministry, Ministry of Water Supply and Sanitation, and Ministry of Federal Affairs, all they were engaged for the same field. Chances of miscoordinations were happening. After the merger of the ministries, looking after the same field or the scope, will suppose that the coordination and service delivery will be improved.
So what are the biggest administrative risks during this transition, especially in terms of policy, continuity, and service delivery?
This can be taken as a risk. Because now the restructuring will limit the bureaucratic positions, that is some vacancies or some posts will be eliminated. Similarly, the policy, I think policy is the government's policy. This should be, there should be no threat to discontinuation, because the every sector's policy is remain there already. So problem is for the management of the employees. They are employing in the ministry now. After the merger, many divisions will be removed. For example, if there is 3 ministries merged, then maybe the planning division, administrative division of the ministries will be only one for new ministry after the merger. So in the perspective of employees, there may be some difficulties for the time being, but as the retirement is a continuous process and going on, and also fulfilling the vacancies already in the different level of governments. That is the federal government, provincial government, and local level. Also, the excess employees can be managed in this way. I think for the policy, that not that much risk. But I can share with you one additional risk, that is, if the ministry is too big in the portfolio and the scope, the officials, especially the high-level officials who makes the final decision, will be overloaded. That is the chance there. It can also be managed by decentralizing or delegation of the decision power to the various levels of officials to manage the time of the decision makers, especially the secretary will be overloaded otherwise if the ministry is very much bigger.
So, Mr. Sarma, as we know, this move is going to affect a lot of employees who were working under Nepal government, right? So how should the government manage civil servants? How should government manage civil employees affected by mergers or eliminations of ministries?
O&M survey will give the roadmap for managing the employees. Probably somewhere the employees are excess, somewhere there is deficiency even in the central government, federal government, and if still it become excess, then the government may manage with sending them, transferring them to the sub-national governments, probably.
So what key indicators should be used to evaluate whether this restructuring is actually successful in the long run?
There could be two indicators. One is the perception of the people who get service from the ministries, the people who, these are the first. This could be the indicator in that how they perceive they are the decision making time, sort of the service queue or going in different entities. It takes the longer time, or duplication of the works, lack of coordinations, delivering service. Overall time is longer or shorter. The people's perception would be the first indicator. And secondly, we can see the result indicators. For example, the capital budget expenses, for example, the total output, total results, physical results, is envisaged in the plan, and the periodic evaluations. It would give us the significance of this merger, or where we are going, how the situation is improving or not.
Thank you for your time and insights, sir.
Thank you.
That was thought-provoking talk with former Secretary Keshav Sharma. As expected, the move of the center rippled down to the provinces, and Lumbini was of the first provinces to heed to the call. Lumbini province government decided to cut the number of ministries and limit its cabinet to 8 ministries as part of an effort to reduce administrative expenses. The decision reflects a broader shift toward leaner governance structures across Nepal's federal system, following recent administrative reforms at the national level. Let's know more from our colleague Rojina Rai and our local correspondent Dasarath Khimiri in this report.
Several provincial governments in Nepal are actively working to reduce the number of ministries in an effort to make administration more cost-effective and efficient. One of the most notable examples is Bagmati province, which has decided to reduce its ministries from 14 to 8. Similar restructuring efforts are being discussed or partially implemented in other provinces, including Lumbini province. The Lumbini provincial government has decided to reduce the number of ministries to 8 starting from the new fiscal year on 17th July. The province currently has 12 ministries, including the Office of the Chief Minister and Council of Ministers. The move aims to support administrative reform by reducing unnecessary expenses, improving efficiency, and making governance more effective and streamlined.
मन्त्रालयहरू कुन कसरी अगाडि बढ्छन् भन्ने बारेमा चाहिँ के भने मन्त्रालयको नामाकरण गर्ने गरी त्यो स्पिडका साथ आज चाहिँ के भने सरकारले यो निर्णय गरेको छ.
The provision to reduce the number of ministries will also be included in the policies and programs for the upcoming fiscal year 2083-84. In addition to restructuring ministries, the government is preparing to complete the adjustment of directorates and offices under various ministries between 29th June and 4 July. Under the new government, ministries with similar responsibilities are expected to be merged. Provincial Chief Minister Chet Narayan Acharya stated the decision was made to ensure faster, more transparent and more efficient public service delivery.
एकातिर खर्च व्ययता हुन्छ भने दोस्रो कुरो भनेको धेरै अब त्यो सुशासनको क्षेत्रमा र जनसेवा प्रवाहको क्षेत्रमा काम गर्नको निम्ति पनि त्यसले सजिलो बनाउँछ.
Lumbini province initially had only 7 ministries. However, during its first term, the number increased to as many as 17. The reduction in ministries is expected to cut administrative cost, speed up decision-making, minimize the duplication of work, improve efficiency, and streamline policy coordination.
The government has officially begun transitioning land administration services directly to local levels, ending the decades-old requirement for the public to visit district land revenue offices. 10 years after the Constitution's promulgation, this shift promises to bring land registration, property division and mortgages right to the doorsteps of the general public. Here's a story.
For decades, land-related paperwork in Nepal has been synonymous with long queues and bureaucratic hurdles at district offices. But that is about to change. The Ministry of Land Management is finally implementing a constitutional mandate to decentralize land revenue and survey services to local governments. It is a transition 10 years in the making. According to the Ministry of Land Management, cooperatives and poverty alleviation services like land ownership transfers, property partitioning and bank mortgages will now be handled by local units. This move activates Annex 9 of the Constitution, effectively bringing Singadarbar to courtyards for land administration. The response has been overwhelming. So far, 215 local levels across the country have expressed their readiness to take over these responsibilities. While the local units are responsible for providing the physical infrastructure and staff, the central land revenue officers will act as mentors, providing essential technical training and digital system support.
पहिलो चरणमा हामीले 30-35 स्थानीय तहसँग चाहिँ समन्वय गर्दैछौं. उहाँहरुबाट चाहिँ नि सेवा सञ्चालन भइसकेपछि हामीले सोचे भन्दा फरकको चुनौती आउँछ कि भन्दा हामीले यो भन्दा पहिले हाम्रो चाहिँ डाटा डिजिटलाइज गरिसकेका थिएनौं, जम्मै कागजमा आधारित डाटा थियो. त्यस्ता अभिलेखहरुलाई चाहिँ हामीले सबै पालिकालाई दिन सक्ने अवस्था थिएन. पछिल्लो समय हामीले ती सबै त्यस्ता दस्तावेज भूमि अभिलेखहरुलाई डिजिटल कम्प्युटरमा डिजिटलाइज गरिराखेका छौं. प्रणाली मार्फतै यो जग्गा प्रशासन सम्बन्धी सेवा सञ्चालन गर्ने गरी व्यवस्था मिलाउनको लागि भनेर अहिलेको हाम्रो तयारी यसै हामी गरिराखेका छौं.
Kathmandu Metropolitan City is leading the charge. 10 wards within the metropolis, including Ward 10, have already signed formal agreements to begin operations. For the residents here, the era of spending days at the district office is nearly its end.
कागजपत्र पुगेको र त्यो जुन यो मालपोतमा चाहिँ नि 11 डिजिटल भएको चाहिँ दर्ता भइसकेको छ. त्यो भइसकेको चाहिँ नि यहाँबाट नामसारी पनि हुन्छ, किनबेच पनि हुन्छ, अब मृतक पछिको नामसारीहरु पनि यो सबै हुन्छ. त्यो डिजिटलमा नआइसकेको चाहिँ नि अहिले पूर्ण रूपमा मालपोत कार्यालय सबै लाल पूजाहरु चाहिँ डिजिटल गरिसकेका छैन. 11 एउटा नम्बरको लिङ्क पाइरहेको छ त्यो लिङ्क हुने बित्तिकै यहाँबाट सबै चिजै ओडैबाट हुन्छ।
However, challenges remain. Not all local levels currently possess the high-speed digital infrastructure or the specialized manpower required for complex land records. Experts warn that while the rollout has begun, a nationwide implementation will be faced as municipalities build their digital capacity. As more municipalities sign on, the government hopes this shift will now only save time and money for the public but finally realize the true spirit of decentralization.
That's all from the perspective for this week's edition. We'll be back next week with major updates. Stay tuned to NTV World.
roofing is called bhata. Likewise, the sloping rod is termed dara, meaning hill. The part in between the teku and the bhata is the mate, which on one hand minimizes the pressure on the teku by creating more surface area, and on the second hand helps restore the house structure during earthquakes. With time, the Mughals started shifting from nuclear family system to joint family trend, which directly changed their way of living, endangering their traditional lifestyle, especially their habitat. This introduced and developed the course of modern and imported construction dancing in the beats of Khaijari. These tireless young feet will not stop until the next morning. As every dawn brings along a dusk, and a hello has to end in a farewell note, it was time for us to say goodbye to Ramkot. The beat of the Madal and Khaijari constantly tried to hold us back even until we reached the faraway trails. It was hard to say goodbye when our heart wanted to stay, but then we had to move on.
Severe heat wave grips Nepal's Tarai region. Hospitals on high alert as heat stroke cases surge in western province. Nepal's opposition disrupts parliament over PM's absence. Dispute over unparliamentary remarks sparks heated debate. Prime Minister Shah assures reforms and stability in meeting with EU diplomats, reaffirms Nepal's balanced foreign policy and global cooperation. Kathmandu hosts global gathering of pastoralist women, demands stronger rights, climate justice and policy inclusion. US conducts new air and maritime strikes on Iran. Tensions escalate as Tehran issues warning amid fragile talks. And Dhankuta hosts cross-border football clash. Home team storms into semi-finals after 2-1 win over Indian side. Good evening, I am Sarah Sapsanamarai and this is NTV World News Hour coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours Nepal time. Now the news in detail. Nepal's southern plains are facing an intense heat wave as temperatures soar above 40 degrees Celsius in multiple districts. Dhangari recorded 41.4 degrees, Bhairahawa 41 degrees and Dipayal 40.5 degrees Celsius, making in fact this one of the hottest periods in recent years. Meteorologists say climate change and the El Nino weather system are driving the extreme conditions, with fears temperatures could rise even further in the coming weeks. The hottest impact is being felt across Lumbini and Sudur Paschim regions, where hot winds and prolonged heat are affecting daily life. Hospitals are seeing more patients suffering from dehydration, exhaustion, dizziness and heat stroke. Doctors are urging people to avoid direct sunlight during peak afternoon hours, stay hydrated and reduce outdoor activity. Weather experts say only light rainfall expected later this week may bring temporary relief from the scorching heat. Nepal's House of Representatives was briefly disrupted after opposition parties demanded the presence of the Prime Minister in Parliament, forcing the first session of the day to be suspended for 15 minutes. Lawmakers from major opposition parties, including Nepali Congress, CPN-UML and others, insisted the Prime Minister must answer public concerns in line with constitutional provisions. Despite repeated appeals from the Speaker, opposition members continued their protest inside the chamber. Following the disruption, proceedings resumed and the Tourism Minister tabled discussions on the Tourism Bill 2025. However, opposition parties again obstructed the session, renewing their demand for a formal ruling on the Prime Minister's attendance. Speaker Dol Prasad Aryal stated that the Prime Minister has consistently signalled willingness to address Parliament and urged lawmakers not to obstruct legislative business. The session later proceeded with debate on the bill amid ongoing political tension. Prime Minister Balendra Shah has reaffirmed his government's commitment to delivering real and visible improvements in the daily lives of citizens while ensuring political stability and respect for democratic values. Speaking at a high-level meeting with European Union ambassadors based in Kathmandu and New Delhi, along with other resident foreign envoys, Prime Minister Shah said Nepal stands at a historic juncture following the recent election mandate that reflects strong public expectations for good governance and inclusive economic growth. He emphasized that while the government is new, it remains committed to continuity, policy clarity and predictable governance. Stressing Nepal's foreign policy direction, the Prime Minister said the country will continue to pursue a balanced and pragmatic approach rooted in mutual respect, sovereign equality and shared prosperity. Foreign diplomats attending the meeting welcomed Nepal's peaceful electoral process and congratulated the Prime Minister on forming a new government with a clear mandate. They also expressed readiness to deepen cooperation and increase investment in Nepal's development sectors. The meeting concluded with both sides reaffirming their commitment to strengthening long-standing diplomatic ties and expanding collaboration for mutual benefit. A global gathering of pastoralist women and girls has brought a powerful international focus to Nepal's capital, Kathmandu. Women from diverse regions, including New Zealand, Mexico, Africa, and the Himalayas, have come together to share experiences, culture, and knowledge linked to livestock rearing and sustainable rangeland management. Despite their crucial role in food production and fiber systems, many pastoralist women continue to face challenges such as insecure land rights, climate change impacts, and limited participation in policy making. Organized by ISIMO, the forum aims to strengthen global solidarity, amplify women's voices, and highlight indigenous knowledge systems in pastoral economies. More on this in our issue of the day. Now, the United States has carried out new air and maritime strikes in southern Iran, targeting missile sites and vessels allegedly preparing to deploy naval mines, according to U.S. Central Command. Washington said the operation was conducted in self-defense to protect American forces and ensure freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz, a critical global shipping route. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps claimed it had downed a U.S. drone and engaged additional aircraft that entered Iranian airspace, while warning of retaliation in response to any ceasefire violations. The latest escalation comes amid ongoing indirect negotiations between Washington and Tehran aimed at stabilizing tensions and advancing discussions on a possible framework agreement. U.S. officials say diplomatic talks are continuing, although key issues remain unresolved. Iranian authorities have also accused the U.S. of repeated military actions in violation of the ceasefire, further complicating efforts to reach a lasting political settlement. Despite the renewed hostilities, both sides have indicated diplomatic channels remain open, though the prospects of a comprehensive agreement remain uncertain. Hosts of Shahid Bhim Narayan Memorial Foundation has advanced to the semi-finals of the ongoing Shahid Bhim Narayan Gold Cup football tournament in Dhankuta, eastern Nepal, after a 2-1 victory over India's Georgian football club. Despite being reduced to 10 players, the visiting side took an early lead, but the hosts made a strong comeback with 2 goals to secure the win at Lower Tulikil. The match saw competitive action, with the home team overturning a first-half deficit to seal victory in the second half. In the next fixture, Belbari Football Club of Morang will face Sadobata Football Club in Lalitpur. In fact. The tournament, which runs until May 29, offers a cash prize of 600,000 Nepali rupees, which is roughly $4,000 to the champions. The world is projected to brace for more intense heat waves as climate change and El Nino weather pattern push global temperatures to dangerous new highs, with the situation becoming increasingly alarming in Nepal's Tarai region. As extreme heat threatens health, livelihoods and daily life, experts stress that adaptation measures, from staying hydrated to improving cooling practices and heat preparedness, are now essential. We take a look on this on our cover story after this break. You're watching NTV World and this is News Hour. Welcome back. Time now for our cover story of the day. Extreme heat and hot winds, locally known as Lu, are severely affecting daily life across Nepal's southern Tarai region. Temperatures have consistently crossed 40 degrees Celsius, triggering intense heat wave conditions in several areas. Meteorologists warn that this year's temperatures could break previous records at multiple weather stations across the country. Experts say climate change and the El Nino weather pattern are contributing to the unusually high temperatures. The prolonged heat is also increasing health risks, particularly for children, the elderly and outdoor workers, while hospitals are reporting a rise in heat-related illnesses, including dehydration, exhaustion and heat stroke. The World Meteorological Organization has warned extreme heat waves are becoming more frequent and intense due to climate change. Reflecting this global trend, Nepal's southern Tarai districts are witnessing severe heat and hot winds. Now, as heat waves intensify across many parts of the world, rising temperatures are becoming a growing concern for public health and daily life. In this context, AFP News Agency, our world news service provider, has prepared a brief video graphic highlighting simple and effective ways to keep homes cool during extreme summer heat. Let's take a look.
When the sun begins to beat down, windows, shutters and interior blinds should all be shut. Select clear, bright colours that reflect light and heat. Open windows at night to allow air to circulate and evacuate heat that's built up during the day. If your home has several floors, open the upper windows to release hot air. This is known as the chimney effect. Try suspending a damp sheet in front of a half-open window. A simple thermodynamic principle is behind the resulting drop in temperature. When a fluid evaporates, it generates cold. Wetting floors around or in the house in the early evening has the same effect. A fan can be made more efficient by placing a bottle containing frozen water in front of it. The air that circulates is cooler. However, there's no point in leaving a fan on if there's no one in the room. A fan doesn't chill air, it just ventilates it. Thanks to evapotranspiration, whereby surface water returns into the atmosphere as vapour, plants can reduce the temperature in a home. Finally, limiting use of the oven and turning off all non-essential electrical appliances also helps keep the temperature bearable in extremely hot weather.
As rising global temperatures driven by climate change continue to impact workers worldwide, the International Labour Organization warns that people engaged in physical labor and those required to wear heavy protective equipment face greater health risks from extreme heat. In this context, AFP News Agency has prepared a video graphic explaining how workers can adapt to high temperatures through a process known as heat acclimatization. Let's take a look.
Workers doing manual tasks in the heat can build tolerance through a process called heat acclimatization. Acclimatization requires a steady but gradual increase in daily workload. On the first hot day, a worker would do 20% of their normal shift. Then by adding 20% more per day, the worker's body can safely adapt to a full workload. Once acclimatized, the body can maintain a lower heart rate. More blood flows from the deep tissues to the skin. Blood vessels in the skin dilate and release heat to the surroundings. The body can maintain a lower overall temperature. It also sweats more, but without losing minerals like sodium and potassium that help muscle function. These adaptations are not permanent. They start to decrease 2 weeks after heat exposure ends. The adaptation schedule needs to be repeated after a prolonged absence of the worker. By implementing such plans alongside other practical measures, workers can adapt to heat and be protected in the face of a warming climate.
Now, a rare global gathering in Kathmandu has brought together women pastoralists from across the world. These livestock herders, key contributors to food and fiber production, are raising a collective voice for recognition, rights and greater inclusion. Our special coverage in Issue of the Day segment after this break. You're watching News Hour here on NTV World. I am Sarah Sapsanamarai. Welcome back. Time now for our issue of the day. A global gathering of pastoralists or livestock herders, women, is drawing international attention on Nepal. The women who play a significant role producing food and fiber from livestock have gathered in Kathmandu to come up with a louder voice, calling for their recognition and rights. Livestock farming is one of the ancient professions in the world, and the experience and unique practices from around the world brought together at a single forum in itself is worth hearing. Sabika Shrestha interacts with these women.
A global gathering of a different nature has started in Nepal's capital Kathmandu, bringing together pastoralist women and girls from around the world. The unique gathering comes as an opportunity of sharing experience, culture, and practices of the women who play key roles in caring for global rangelands and producing food and fiber from livestock. Despite their immense contribution, they often lack secure land rights, suffer disappropriate impacts from climate change, and are excluded from key policy decisions. International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, ICIMOD, the local organizer, expects that the gathering will provide the much-needed support to their initiatives, strengthen solidarity and networks across regions. These women, representing the entire world, from New Zealand down under to Mexico in South America, bring their own diversity on the table during the 4-day gathering.
And being in this platform for the global gathering for pastoralist women, it's very empowering to get to see women who are pastoralists like us coming together, sharing ideas and innovating ourselves to be more better and even for our future generations. So being in this space is very empowering and an amazing space for networking in everything that we do as pastoralist women.
The forum is also expected to provide the women with the opportunity to identify shared priorities and amplify pastoralist women's voices in international decisions about rangelands and pastoralism. The gathering marks one of the largest global assemblies focused specifically on pastoralist women, with participants representing diverse ecosystems from Himalayan highlands and African savannas to Arctic tundra and Latin American rangelands. Delegates are engaging in dialogues on climate resilience, land rights, indigenous knowledge systems, and women's leadership in pastoral economies. To encourage the gathered women, Minister for Agriculture, Forest and Environment Geeta Chaudhary was in attendance in the inaugural session.
यत्रो 37वटा देशबाट उपस्थित हुनुभएको छ तपाईहरुको सबैजनाको डिफ्रेन्ट स्टोरी छ त्यो स्टोरीलाई चाहिँ हामीले पनि काम गर्दाखेरि नेपाल सरकारको विभिन्न क्लाइमेटिक इश्यूजहरुमा काम गर्दाखेरि तपाईहरुको यो स्टोरीहरुलाई तपाईहरुले गरेको संघर्षका कथाहरुलाई कहीं न कहीं प्रोग्रामेटिक इम्प्लिमेन्टेसन पनि गर्न सकिने अवस्थामा चाहिँ हाम्रो लागि चाहिँ एकदम धेरै प्रेरणाजनक पनि हुनेछ। यो सम्मेलनको चाहिँ ऐतिहासिकता एउटा इतिहास हो जसले चाहिँ विभिन्न ठाउँबाट विश्वभरिबाट जम्मा हुनुभएका महिला किसान पशुपालक नेत्रीहरूलाई एकीकृत गरेको छ जसले चाहिँ आफ्नो कथन आफ्नो कथा आफ्नो दृष्टिकोण परिवर्तन गर्ने क्षमता पनि राख्नुहुन्छ।
Through storytelling and dialogue, participants are exchanging insights on navigating challenges such as climate variability, resource scarcity, mobility restrictions, and social marginalization. Organizers stress that these shared stories are not just personal accounts, but valuable sources of knowledge. The struggles of one pastoralist woman can offer lessons and inspiration to another, fostering a sense of solidarity and collective learning across borders.
In 2022, UN has declared International Year of Rangeland and Pastoralists for 2026. So this event is going to happen in Mongolia in August. Different pastoralist women now, they are gathered here to refine that declaration because many of this declaration, it didn't work. So they want to discuss what worked well and what needs to be revised. So here they are going to revise and make a declaration, work on the declaration and finalize that declaration. So that declaration will be presented in different international forum like UNCCD COP in Mongolia and other UNCBD and climate COP related events. So this declaration is going to be presented and this pastoralist women whose voices are, who never gets similar kind of platforms will give their voice to this international platforms.
The strong international participation reflects a growing recognition of pastoralism as a viable and sustainable livelihood system in the face of global environmental change. The gathering is expected to culminate in a collective call to action, placing pastoralist women at the center of global conversations on sustainability, climate adaptation, and food systems transformation, while ensuring their voices, stories, and knowledge continue to guide future policies and practices. Sabika Shrestha with camera person Anzir Singh Bika, NTV World.
And bringing together diverse experiences and indigenous practices from across the world, continents, in fact, the Pastoralist Conference has become a common platform for women pastoralists to raise their voices on rights, livelihoods and climate challenges. We asked the participants about the significance of the gathering. Let's have a look.
We think it's important that women participate and participate also in decision making, share their voices, concerns, meet other women also from other parts of the world and share their concerns and experiences.
To be around all of these women who work in incredibly rural areas of the world that are trying to make a living, and I see how passionate they are about the work that they're doing and helping and uplifting their communities. So it's incredibly empowering.
It is very hard to be a woman and a pastoralist at the same time because, you know, women's rights, especially in pastoralism, we can't say what we want. We don't, even if we say what we want, we doesn't get it always.
To be a pastoralist woman in today is to be strong, adaptive, and rooted in the land. We protect animals, water, culture, and future generations while facing climate change and the uncertainty of what's to come.
You know, with the certification, no rain, and every year it gets harder. But we have to improve and we have to be resilient so we can keep it on.
Having gathering like this helps because, one, it doesn't have one thematic area, covers all thematic areas, and I feel like it resonates with our communities and also ensures that it gets to that position where decisions are made and voices from the communities reaches that voice, that space.
Mainly केटीहरूले चाहिँ अब पास्टोरलिस्ट एरियामा काम गर्नुहुन्छ हाम्रो शेर्पाहरूको चाहिँ भन्दा पर्दाखेरि अनि बोइसहरू चाहिँ अब फार अथवा हिमालहरू चढ्न जानुहुन्छ नि त त्यही भएर चाहिँ यसले चाहिँ धेरै इफेक्ट पारेको छ.
Women are the custodians of knowledge, and when it comes to passing down knowledge from one generation to another, they're good at it, and I see them do that. So it's going to survive, at least reach the next generation, and also take care of the planet.
Women still don't have the rights that they should have. Their work in livestock rearing is not yet visible, and their voices are still not loud enough or not heard in political corridors where action has to take place. We hope that this year, which is the International Year of Ranges and Pastoralism, and also the International Year of Women Farmers, these things might change a bit for the better, and we hope for a brighter future for our daughters and our granddaughters.
That wraps up our issue of the day. Nepal's current government has completed 2 months in office, unveiling an ambitious 100-point reform agenda aimed at structural changes, governance improvement and service delivery reforms. The administration has reduced the number of ministries, initiated constitutional review discussions and introduced several ordinances targeting public administration efficiency and anti-corruption measures. Key actions include administrative restructuring, digital service expansion and efforts to clear long-pending government files under a Zero Pending Files campaign. The government also claims progress in streamlining public services such as driving licenses, passports and land-related offices. However, the reforms have sparked political debate, with critics questioning the legality and pace of some decisions, while supporters say the measures are restoring public trust and strengthening governance. Despite early momentum, analysts say the biggest challenge remains turning the ambitious 100-point plan into sustained implementation amid political and administrative pressures. Nepal's Foreign Ministry has launched a new mobile application, Mofa Mitra, aimed at making consular services more accessible for Nepalese living abroad. Foreign Minister Sisir Khanal urged overseas Nepalis to use the application to register complaints, track service requests and communicate directly with Nepali embassies and missions. Developed by the Department of Consular Services, the application is available on both Android and iOS platforms and is designed to simplify access to services such as inquiries, emergency assistance, corpse repatriation, insurance claims and compensation support. Officials say the digital platform will strengthen the protection of Nepali citizens' rights abroad and ensure faster response during crises. The government has also pledged to expand and improve the service further to enhance citizen-friendly governance through technology. Nepal and China have reaffirmed their joint commitment to controlling cross-border crime during a bilateral security coordination meeting in Rasua. The meeting, conducted at the District Administration Office in Thunche, focused on strengthening border security, trade facilitation, disaster management coordination and information sharing mechanisms between the two countries. The Nepali delegation, led by Chief District Officer Rajesh Panthi, and the Chinese delegation, headed by Commissioner Zhang Jinsui of the Gairong Immigration Inspection Station, discussed issues including cross-border movement, e-pass implementation, illegal trade control and the safety of Nepali citizens residing in Gairong. Both sides agreed to enhance cooperation among security agencies to prevent criminal activities along the border and improve coordination for smoother trade and transportation. Chinese officials also indicated possible flexibility in allowing Nepali drivers from outside Rasua to enter Gairong after completing necessary procedures, a move expected to boost trade and transport activities in the northern border region. Nepal's Association of Pharmaceutical Producers has urged the government to reduce unnecessary imports of foreign medicines and strengthen domestic pharmaceutical industries. The association says Nepal is already self-sufficient in several types of medicines, but local manufacturers are struggling due to strong competition from cheaper imported drugs, particularly from India. The association states that nearly 1,000 pharmaceutical companies operate in Nepal, but around 10 have closed and about 50 more are at risk, with many factories running at only 30 to 40% capacity. Industry leaders claim high production costs, low import duties on finished medicines and heavy taxes on packaging materials are weakening local producers. They're calling for a policy shift that allows import of raw materials instead of finished medicines that are already produced in Nepal. The association says Nepal has invested billions in the sector and warns that without government intervention, more factories could shut down. Moving on, Nepal's Ministry of Agriculture, Forest and Environment has announced a shift toward a scientific system of distributing chemical fertilizers based on cultivable land area and production needs, aiming to reduce shortages and improve efficiency. Officials say around 145,000 metric tons of fertilizers are currently in stock, with additional imports underway, including 40,000 metric tons of urea and DAP ahead of the paddy planting season. The government plans to import up to 600,000 metric tons this fiscal year, backed by over $200 million in allocation. Authorities have urged farmers to purchase fertilizers only from officials' depots, while warning of strict action against black marketing and substandard products. The ministry says rising global production costs have pushed fertilizer prices higher, making regulated distribution and quality control increasingly important. The centuries-old tradition of crafting bamboo and Nigalo goods in Baglung is facing an existential crisis as plastic and steel products flood local markets. With producer numbers dropping from 500 to just 200 and individual earnings nearly halved, local artisans are urging the government to intervene before this traditional livelihood disappears forever. We have a report by our Baglung correspondent, Kiran Acharya.
For generations, the rural households of Baglung have sustained themselves by crafting household items like nanglo or winnowing trays, dalu or carrying baskets, mandra or floor mat, bakari or grain storage containers, and swali and thunse from bamboo, and nigalo or the reed plants. These products were once a reliable source of income for hundreds of rural entrepreneurs across the district. Today, however, that livelihood is fast disappearing. With cheaper plastic, steel, and synthetic products flooding local markets in recent years, demand for traditionally crafted bamboo and cane goods have fallen sharply. As consumption declines, so does production, and with it the income of local artisans who have spent their entire life mastering this craft. Entrepreneurs say that in the past, these handmade goods were sold in large quantity at seasonal fairs, drawing buyers from across the region. But in recent years, dwindling demand has directly translated into shrinking sales. For families whose sole income source is the same trade, the loss is devastating. The production figures are equally alarming. In many villages, close to 500 entrepreneurs once produced bamboo and nigalo goods every year for Baglung's annual Chaitra Dasai fair. That number has now collapsed to just 200, a more than 60% decline in active producers within a few years. Two key factors are driving this decline. First, large number of young people from these villages have left for foreign employment, taking away the workforce and breaking the generational chain of skill transfer. Second, the older generation, the ones who hold these traditional skills, has been unable to pass on the craft as demand and motivation dry up. Locals point out that neither the local government nor consumers have done enough to protect and sustain this traditional industry. Artisans and community members are now calling on the local government to step in with protective policies, market linkages, and awareness campaigns to revive consumer interest in these indigenous products before a centuries-old craft tradition is lost forever.
International news coming up next. For now, a quick recap of the headlines. Severe heat wave grips Nepal's Tarai region. Hospitals on high alert as heat stroke cases surge in western province. Nepal's opposition disrupts parliament over PM's absence. Dispute over unparliamentary remarks sparks heated debate. Prime Minister Shah assures reforms and stability in meeting with EU diplomats, reaffirms Nepal's balanced foreign policy and global cooperation. Kathmandu hosts global gathering of pastoralist women, demands stronger rights, climate justice and policy inclusion. US conducts new air and maritime strikes on Iran. Tensions escalate as Tehran issues warning amid fragile talks. And Thankuta hosts cross-border football clash. Home team storms into semi-finals after 2-1 win over Indian side. At least 4 people, including 2 children, have been killed in a collision between a train and a school bus in northern Belgium, according to officials. The crash occurred in the municipality of Bugenhout during the morning rush hour when a train struck a school minibus at a local crossing. Authorities described the impact as severe. Emergency services responded immediately with police and rescue teams securing the area and treating the injured. Officials confirmed several children were among those on board the vehicle at the time of the collision. Belgian leaders, including the Deputy Prime Minister and Interior Minister, expressed condolences to the victims' families, while European Commission President also conveyed sympathy, calling the incident deeply tragic. An investigation has been launched to determine the circumstances of the crash. Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei has warned countries in the Middle East would no longer serve as shields for American military bases amid ongoing tensions between Iran and the US despite a fragile ceasefire.
امت اسلامی و ملت‌های منطقه ظرفیت‌ها و منافع مشترک زیادی دارند که نظم جدید و هندسه آینده منطقه و جهان را شکل خواهد داد. این جانب با صدق و خلوص همه کشورها و دولت‌های اسلامی را به دوستی و تعاون به خیر و نیکی دعوت می‌کنم تا با همکاری یکدیگر در راه پیشرفت امت اسلامی و حل مسائل دنیای اسلام قدم برداریم.
The remarks come as Tehran and Washington continues indirect exchanges aimed at securing a broader agreement to end the conflict that erupted in February. Although both sides have reported progress in negotiations, Iranian officials say a final deal has not yet been reached. Foreign ministers of the Quad nations have reaffirmed their commitment to strengthening cooperation on Indo-Pacific security, resilient supply chains and critical infrastructure during talks hosted by India. Opening the meeting, India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar said the grouping must not only focus on regional security in the Indo-Pacific, but also address broader global challenges, including supply chain vulnerabilities, connectivity bottlenecks, and gaps in critical infrastructure.
We will be discussing and deciding our shared activities. Obviously, that will take into account the many challenges and opportunities in the world. Our focus will clearly be on the Indo-Pacific, which is the specific remit of the Quad. At the global level, we have to address issues like supply chain resilience, connectivity choke points, manufacturing and resource concentrations, and gaps in critical infrastructure. Each one of them offers a new argument for more partnerships, stronger growth, and realizing the promise of technologies. The Indo-Pacific has, in addition, its own particular concerns. This will require enhancing strategic confidence, ensuring maritime security, promoting economic choices, and fostering a deeper collaborative ethos. And that is best done by promoting trusted and transparent partnerships.
Bolivian President Rodrigo Paz has announced a 50% salary cut for himself and his cabinet ministers as his government faces mounting pressure from widespread anti-government protests across the country. The 58-year-old center-right leader is confronting the most serious crisis of his presidency since taking office last November, with demonstrators demanding his resignation amid growing economic and social unrest. Unions representing farmers, miners, teachers and factory workers have led weeks of nationwide protests since early May, following calls for mobilization by the country's largest trade union federation, the Bolivian Workers' Union, or COB.
Quiero avisarles que este presidente, junto a sus ministros, ha asumido la decisión como parte del esfuerzo y el compromiso con el país de rebajarse el salario 50% para que sea aporte a un esfuerzo claro de que Bolivia tiene un presidente y ministros que van a sumarse a ese esfuerzo. El diálogo está abierto. El diálogo será siempre nuestro instrumento para resolver los problemas. Les reitero una vez más que las manos están abiertas y tendidas y que no solo haremos este diálogo, sino que tendremos, y reitero, ese Consejo Económico y Social de la Patria.
Business news coming up next. For now, a short breather.
Construction of the access tunnel for the 126-megawatt Lower Seti hydropower project under construction in Tonahu has begun. The tunnel being built at Devghat Rural Municipality 4 is considered crucial for the construction of the project's main structures. Tonahu Hydropower Limited, a wholly owned subsidiary of the Nepal Electricity Authority, has moved forward with the work after signing a contract with RK Hydro Engineering and Associates. According to project chief Hari Kumar Shrestha, the construction had been delayed for some time due to pending approval for the use of explosives, but work has now started after the necessary clearance was obtained. The semi-reservoir type peaking run of the river project aims to generate more than 520 million units of electricity annually. A 32-meter high dam will be constructed on the Sethi River near Sarangat in Bandipur Rural Municipality, creating a reservoir approximately 12.7 kilometers long. Stored water will be diverted through a 6.75-kilometer tunnel to the semi-underground powerhouse located at Gaighat in Devghat Rural Municipality. The estimated cost of the project is $227 million. Trade between Vietnam and African nations has reached approximately $8 billion annually as Vietnamese exporters increasingly look beyond traditional markets in Europe and the Americas. While Vietnam's exports to Africa have historically focused on agricultural commodities such as rice, coffee, and cashew nuts, the country is now seeking to expand its presence in industrial manufacturing and high-tech sectors. With Africa's population exceeding 1.4 billion and urbanization accelerating across the continent, demand is rising for production machinery, agricultural equipment, food processing technology, and infrastructure solutions. Industry experts say this shift presents significant opportunities for Vietnamese manufacturers aiming to strengthen their position in emerging markets. Vietnamese trade officials are encouraging businesses to diversify exports towards Africa, Latin America, and the Middle East while investing in research and modern production systems to increase the value and competitiveness of Vietnamese goods globally. Authorities have also urged companies to better understand local legal systems, business practices, and market conditions in African countries as part of broader efforts to deepen economic ties and expand Vietnam's international trade footprint.
Time now for sports update. FIFA has confirmed Iran relocated its planned World Cup training base from the United States to Mexico amid the war in the Middle East and security concerns. Iran had originally selected a sports complex in Tucson, Aries, to serve as the national team's de facto headquarters during the World Cup. But the country sought a change after the US and Israel conducted joint strikes on Iran beginning late February. FIFA published the final list of team-based camp locations, with Iran now setting up shop at Centro Soloitzcuintli in Tijuana. There are not yet any plans to change the location of Iran's group stage matches. As part of Group G, Iran is set to play its first two matches in Los Angeles against New Zealand on June 15 and Belgium on June 21, with a June 26 matchup against Egypt in Seattle. Now the weather updates, first from across Nepal and then the world. Before wrapping up, here's a reminder of our top stories. Severe heat wave grips Nepal's Tarai region. Hospitals on high alert as heat stroke cases surge in western province. Nepal's opposition disrupts parliament over Prime Minister's absence. Dispute over unparliamentary remarks sparks heated debate. Prime Minister Balendra Shah assures reform and stability in meeting with EU diplomats, reaffirms Nepal's balanced foreign policy and global cooperation. Kathmandu hosts global gathering of pastoralist women, demands stronger rights, climate justice and policy inclusion. US conducts new air and maritime strikes on Iran. Tensions escalate as Tehran issues warning amid fragile talks. And Dhankuta hosts cross-border football clash. Home team storms into semi-finals after 2-1 win over Indian side. That is all for this edition of NTV World News Hour. Do join us through our social media and also visit our official website nepaltelevision.com for more news and information. I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai. Thanks for staying with us. Good night.